Chapter 1413. Only the heavens knew how much she had suffered for this day. However, what comforted her was that her strength had also increased rapidly in this process. Just yesterday she had broken through to become a rank 9 warrior. It was also because of this that she was able to deal with such a difficult and complicated test so easily today. Before coming here, even she herself did not expect that she would be able to complete such a huge breakthrough in such a short period of time. Not bad. Fifth Elder's smiling voice sounded. Not far away, faint ripples appeared on the clear lake. After breaking through to rank 9, your strength has increased a lot. To you, all of this is no longer a big deal. After receiving the affirmation, Mu Hongyu's smile became even brighter. Thank you, Senior Diwu. Then, she blinked and asked apprehensively, what's the matter? You said before that as long as I pass the test, you will send me to see Lu Yu. Huh. I knew you were going to mention this. Don't worry, I will never go back on my promise to you. Fifth Elder answered very straightforwardly. It's just that this matter can't be rushed. We have to wait for an opportunity first. Mu Hongyu was a little confused. Opportunity? What kind of opportunity? At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air suddenly came from the sky. She looked back. A purple light flew over from the horizon. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of her. Mu Hongyu widened her eyes slightly, feeling that this aura was very familiar. Wait, isn't this swoosh? Before she could see clearly, the other party had already disappeared in a flash. Only an afterimage was left as it gradually dissipated. A soft sound came from the lake not far away. Mu Hongyu subconsciously held her breath. This should be that person returning, right? But why doesn't Lu Yu seem to be with him? Mu Hongyu scanned her surroundings with uncertainty. Indeed, she did not see that familiar figure and was a little disappointed. Hongyu, go and rest first. Diwu Zhang's voice sounded. Mu Hongyu was a little confused, but she still obediently agreed. Yes. She glanced in the direction of the lake a few times before her figure flashed and disappeared into the void. Under the lake there was an extremely hidden space. The 4 walls were made of black iron, and each wall was engraved with strange patterns that emitted rays of light. These lights intertwined and overlapped with each other, forming a huge and complicated rune. A heavy pressure continuously spread out from within. It could almost crush everything. Under the rune, 2 illusory figures were suppressed. It was Diwu Zhangze and Lan Xiao. The runes pierced through their heads and bodies, nailing them to the ground. Apart from the Night of the Scarlet Moon, none of them could leave this place. This was a cage. Purple light flickered. Dugu Maobao's figure gradually appeared. His gaze swept across the 2 of them calmly, and when he saw Lan Xiao, he frowned. This was because Lan Xiao's figure was obviously much more illusory than Diwu Zhang's, and his aura was weak. Furthermore, half of his handsome face had festered away. He was sitting cross-legged with his brows tightly knitted. He didn't look well. Debao, you're finally back. Diwu Zhangze let out a long sigh. What's wrong with him? Dugu Maobao asked in a low voice. Lan Xiao valued his face the most, and he definitely wouldn't allow his face to become like this. Clearly something must have happened. Diwu Zhangze sighed helplessly. It's all because he wants to leave this place. After you left, he also wanted to forcefully reconstruct his divine body, but he didn't succeed, and became like this. Lan Xiao's strength wasn't comparable to Dugu Maobao's. Dugu Maobao had failed once, but he still had the ability to try a second time, but Lan Xiao couldn't. Furthermore, Dugu Maobao only succeeded because of Rong Xiu and Chu Liuyue's help. How could Lan Xiao succeed when he was fighting alone? Stupid. Impulsive. Dugu Maobao was also angry. Doesn't he know how dangerous it is to do this? He's waited for so many years, what's the difference in time? Diwu Zhangze smiled bitterly and shook his head. I also advised him, but you fought with someone before, right? Dugu Maobao paused. I've already blocked the news. As long as you fight, the other party will notice. It's just a matter of time. Diwu Zhangze interrupted Dugu Maobao, which was rare. If you weren't in big trouble, you definitely wouldn't have fought so easily. Lan Xiao was anxious, so Dugu Maobao was silent for a moment. I didn't think it through. The situation was too urgent, so I didn't care about that. You've always been cautious, so how could you not care? You must have been in a desperate situation, so you had no choice. They had known each other for many years and knew each other very well. Others might believe these words, but they couldn't fool the other party. There was a moment of silence. Dugu Maobao said, "Forget it. We'll talk about this later. Let's heal him first." Diwu Zhangzi nodded. During this period he had put in a lot of effort to stabilize Lan Zhao's injuries. However, without a divine body, there was a limit to what he could do. He could only rely on Dugu Maobao. "By the way, how's Yue?" Diwu Zhangzi asked with concern. They had been gone for a few months and he didn't know how they were doing over there. Dugu Maobao's eyebrows twitched slightly. "It should be breaking through to the God realm soon." Lingxiao College. Chu Luiyue was unaware of everything that was happening in the outside world. Her eyes were tightly shut and she seemed to have entered a strange state. The aura on her body was also rising at an alarming speed. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 14:14. Elder Meng, who was sitting cross-legged on the top floor, suddenly opened his eyes, his face full of surprise. "Hey, how is his cultivation speed so fast? It hasn't been long since he came in. How is his aura so much stronger?" Elder Meng faintly felt that something was wrong. He retracted the horsetail whisk floating in front of him, got up and walked outside, wanting to go down and see for himself. Just as he took 2 steps, he paused and turned back to take a look. In the empty room, the door floated quietly. It looked no different from before. As for that unsettling commotion, it didn't appear again. There shouldn't be any more problems, right? He thought silently. Suppressing the uneasiness in his heart, Elder Meng turned around and went downstairs. His figure quickly disappeared. A strange pattern flashed on the door that was floating in the air all by itself. It disappeared in the blink of an eye. The tower on Mount Pingmin had a total of 7 floors. Elder Meng usually stayed on the top floor. He would only come down when there were some special circumstances. However, there were not many such opportunities. Especially, and it was because of a student. Elder Meng went down the stairs, his footsteps were silent and he did not cause any commotion. When he reached the 2nd floor, he finally stopped for a short while and looked down at the young man sitting cross-legged in the middle of the room. The young man had his eyes closed, his face was calm and he did not move at all. Compared to before, there did not seem to be any changes. However, there was a faint surge of force around him. It seemed like it was about to boil. This was a fluctuation that would only appear when a cultivator was madly devouring force and his strength was rapidly increasing. Elder Meng frowned slightly. Although the force of heaven and earth in the tower was considered rich, it did not seem to be to this extent. He stared at it for a while and only then did he see something fishy. A portion of the origin power surging in Chuyu's body seemed to have erupted from within his body. He was absorbing the force of the outside world while digging out the stored force in his body and completely fusing it with himself. Attacking both internally and externally, this allowed him to rapidly increase his strength. Elder Meng narrowed his eyes. It seemed that this kid was quite capable. Earlier he felt that Chuyu was not as simple as he seemed. From the looks of it now, it was indeed so. Suddenly, a beautiful ray of light flew out from Chu Liyue's left palm. A powerful pressure spread out in all directions. Elder Meng widened his eyes slightly. That is, divine power. He had long known about the fact that Chuyu had a strand of divine power in his body. But the current situation, Chuyu wanted to fuse with this divine power? Elder Meng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the past few months since Chuyu had entered Lingxiao College, his strength had increased extremely quickly. After returning from the northern region of the Great Desolate Land, he had directly broken through to the 9th stage. But, in the end, the 9th step was only the 9th step. Only deities could fuse divine power. Chuyu was still far away from this step. Elder Meng couldn't help but shake his head. Looks like this kid's heart is really big. It was true that he wanted to become stronger, but he had to be reasonable, right? He's still a young and impetuous child after all. After watching for a while, Elder Meng felt that his inexplicable worries and uneasiness were unnecessary. He thought for a moment and decided not to disturb him. Young people had to suffer some losses to grow up. He'd better go busy himself with his own matters first. Thinking of this, Elder Meng turned around and returned. Just like when he came, he was still light and silent. That beautiful light circled around Chu Liyue's palm. The brilliant light shone on her face, making her skin as clear as white porcelain. In her body, countless forces surged in her Yuan meridian, almost whistling like the wind. Her body seemed to be surrounded by warm spring water. Heat and origin power spread through every part of her body and nourished her silently. Every inch of her bones and flesh was undergoing an astonishing change in silence. At a certain moment she opened her eyes. When she saw that she was still in that strange square space, Chu Liwei knew that she didn't see this with her eyes. A bright light flickered in front of her. The beautiful light made it look very moving. That was a strand of divine power stored in her body. Chu Liwei was a little surprised. She didn't know why it ran out on its own. But she suddenly had an idea in her mind. If she could completely integrate this divine power, it would be very beneficial to her cultivation. Somehow, as if she had been imprinted, Chu Liwei raised her hand and grabbed that ball of light. The light was like quicksand flowing through the gaps between her fingers. It was impossible for a rank 9 warrior to devour divine power. Chu Liwei suddenly came back to her senses. She laughed at herself and was about to retract her hand. But at this moment, there was a sudden movement on the wall in front of her. She seemed to have sensed something and looked up. All of a sudden those strange lines began to move. They gathered together and formed a strange pattern in the blink of an eye. Chu Liwei looked at it and frowned. She felt that this pattern was a little familiar. The next moment that ball of divine power suddenly floated toward the pattern. The pattern rotated gently. Every line was exquisite and beautiful, elegant and agile. And in this process that ball of divine power was silently crushed. It turned into specks of starlight. Whoosh, a gentle breeze blew and those starlight surged like a tide, flying toward Chu Liwei and merging into every part of her body. Chu Liwei was stunned for a moment and a deep shock surged in her eyes. This space actually erased the divine sense of that divine power so easily and belonged to her. Digression. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, today is the last day, please give me a monthly rating moi. Mobile users please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 14:16. Boom. A loud sound suddenly came from one of the nearby mountain peaks. Luo Yanlin and the others looked over in shock. What's going on? Luo Yanlin gestured for the two of them to calm down as he took a few steps forward to take a closer look. Halfway up the opposite mountain, a cave collapsed with a loud rumble. A few boulders rolled down, stirring up a cloud of dust and almost sealing the cave entrance. That's Lin Qifei's residence. Luo Yanming also came over. After taking a closer look, she frowned. He seems to have been cultivating in seclusion recently. I don't know what happened, but he actually caused such a huge commotion. Lin Qifei was one of the most outstanding students that the academy had recruited in the past 6 months. In addition, he was also a mystic master, so Luo Yanming had been paying attention to him. Lin Qifei. Luo Yanlin raised his eyebrows. I haven't seen him in a while. Lin Qifei didn't follow the academy to the primeval north and had been cultivating peacefully in the academy. Especially after he defeated Jiang Jiwan in public, he stayed in his residence and didn't come out much. He was very low-key. Many people couldn't figure out what Lin Qifei was thinking, including Luo Yanming. Later, he wanted to spar with him several times, but he couldn't find a suitable opportunity. Did something happen to him? Should we go over and take a look? Luo Shishir asked worriedly. Judging from the commotion, it didn't seem like he was fine. Luo Yanlin was about to move when he suddenly paused. No need. As soon as he said that, the pile of boulders was suddenly pushed aside. A thin and tall figure walked out from within. It was Lin Qifei, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. His face and body were covered in dust, and there seemed to be blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked a little haggard. He seemed to be choking on the dust and coughed as he walked. However, Luo Shishir and the others were relieved. Looks like he's fine. Luo Shishir heaved a sigh of relief. Although they weren't familiar with each other, they were all classmates. Naturally, they didn't want to see anything happen to him. Especially since Lin Qifei was more talented than a Xian master. Wouldn't it be a pity if something happened to him? Suddenly, Luo Yanlin's eyes narrowed as he stared at Lin Qifei. Fourth brother, what's wrong? Luo Shishir and the other two sensed that something was wrong and looked at him strangely. This Lin Qifei, Luo Yanlin said hesitantly as if he was guessing something. His eyes were surging with emotions. If I'm not mistaken, the fluctuation coming from the cave seems to be the movement caused by the construction of a teleportation array? Although it was very subtle, his strength was tyrannical and he had the experience of building a teleportation array with the elders of the clan, so he could acutely sense it. Could it be that Lin Qifei was trying to build the teleportation portal alone in that cave? This sudden thought made Luo Yinlin's mind a little uncertain. This was because constructing a teleportation array was an extremely complicated and difficult task. Normally speaking, even ordinary Shen King masters only knew a little about it. Lin Qifei was actually trying this now. Then what is his true strength? Judging from the situation just now, Lin Qifei should have failed. However, to be able to create such a commotion, it meant that he had at least grasped the knack of it. Luo Yinlin was a little shocked. He had always known that Lin Qifei was very talented and had a calm temperament. In the past few months since he entered the school, other than the examination at the beginning of the month and the confrontation with Jiang Jiwan, he seemed to have disappeared and focused on cultivating. Why would such a person not succeed? That was why Luo Yinlin had always thought highly of him. However, it was only today that he realized that he might have underestimated him. Lin Qifei seemed to be aware of their gazes. He stood still and raised his eyes to look at them. After seeing their faces clearly, Lin Qifei's expression was magnanimous. He nodded politely at them and smiled. It's as if everything is normal. I don't feel embarrassed about being discovered. Luo Yinlin nodded and retracted his gaze. Looks like he's fine. Luo Yanming stared at him a few more times. As a Xian master, he instinctively felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't say what it was. Alright, that's all for today. You two go back and cultivate. There's still an examination when you go back home. Got it, fourth brother. Fong State City. The two sides were still in a tug-of-war. In that case, you also don't know who the person who took Chuyu away is? In the end, is it only Chuyu himself who knows? Jindi asked coldly. Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows slightly. She doesn't know either. Jindi snorted. Who knows if she really doesn't know or if she's just pretending? Rong Xiu's lips curled up slightly, but it was an extremely cold smile. If she knows, she'll definitely tell I. Do you all think that if I knew who that person was, would I still be here talking and laughing? His voice was deep and cold to begin with. Now that his voice was slightly dragged out, there was a hint of coldness in it, making people feel a chill in their hearts. Silence. Many people looked at each other. Rong Xiu's words weren't unreasonable. Anyone could see how protective he was of that Chuyu. If he knew who bullied Chuyu and who was behind all this, with his domineering personality, he wouldn't have swallowed his anger until now. It seemed that he really didn't know. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 14-17. Elder Bo Yen came out to smooth things over. Everyone, about this matter, we want to find out the truth as soon as possible, just like all of you. After all, whether it's our Lingxiao College or Yuntian Tower, we suffered a loss this time. As for Chuyu, he did get some opportunities, but it's not like he didn't get into any trouble. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been taken away by those people, right? He sighed. To tell you the truth, when Rong Xiu rescued Chuyu, he was seriously injured and unconscious. He has been in a deep sleep during this period of time. It wasn't easy for him to wake up recently. Otherwise, we wouldn't have locked him up in Pingmin Mountain, right? These words made many people's minds waver. Could it be Chuyu was taken away by the mysterious people because he entered that place alone? If that was the case, it seemed to be explainable. In my opinion, we should work together to find out the truth. After a fierce confrontation, someone finally began to compromise. Then, since Elder Bo Yen has said so, let's check it out first? I think that's fine. At most, we can wait for Chuyu to come out and explain it to us. It's useless for us to stay here. Why don't we go back and find a way to find clues? Elder Bo Yen took the initiative to give them a way out, so naturally some people followed suit. Originally, there were still some people who wanted to continue to argue, but seeing that the situation was not right, they chose to keep quiet. At this moment, Jean D suddenly thought of something and stepped forward. Wait. I have one last question. Everyone was quiet for a moment and looked over. Rong Xiu nodded. Just say it. Jean D laughed, but there was no smile in his eyes. What I want to ask is, the sword Chuyu used, is it the one he took from Jin Lei? As soon as these words came out, many people were surprised. In fact, The whole Divine Ruins world knew about the matter between the Golden Wing sect and Lingxiao College. Logically speaking, the people of the Golden Wing sect should be very reluctant to mention this matter in front of everyone. After all, they were completely defeated. But now why did Jin Di suddenly mention this? Elder Bo Yan's heart tightened as he looked at Rong Xiu quietly. Rong Xiu's expression didn't change as he lightly asked, "Why? So what if I am? So what if I'm not? Anyway, that thing is hers, so it doesn't seem to make any difference, right?" Jin Di laughed. "Why not? The difference was huge. Rong Xiu, that sword should be a genuine venerable artifact, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, there was dead silence all around. A venerable artifact. Even in the entire Divine Ruins world, it was a top-notch treasure. It was a rare item that all the aristocratic families and clans fought over. How many years had it been since a venerable artifact had appeared in the Divine Ruins world? What is Golden Flute saying now? Chu Yu was using a venerable divine artifact? For a moment, the way everyone looked at Rong Xiu changed. Although they tried their best to restrain themselves, it was still difficult to conceal the curiosity and passion in their eyes. At first they didn't feel it, but when Jin Di said this, they felt that something was wrong. When they were in the northern border of the wilderness, many had seen Chu Liwei use a sword with their own eyes. At the very least, the mysterious realm in the middle of the 9 canyons, the hard door that seemed to be forever unbreakable, was split open by him with a sword. Thinking about it carefully, it was probably a venerable artifact that could do this, right? Rong Xiu looked at Jin Di, his phoenix-like eyes deepened. This question was really malicious. In the silent atmosphere that seemed to be frozen, Rong Xiu finally spoke. "Whether it's true or not, next time let her see it personally, won't you know?" The smile on Jin Di's face suddenly froze. "Are you threatening me?" Rong Xiu chuckled. "Yes. Since the other party was so crafty and mean, there was no need for him to be merciful. If the sect master of the Golden Wing sect was here, he might be polite." "A mere Jin Di, what the hell? You..." Jin Di's face suddenly turned into a pig liver color. "But it depends on her wishes." Rong Xiu smiled faintly. "If she thinks it's troublesome, then I can't help but do it myself." Every word and sentence was light, but it was wrapped in a thunderous momentum which made people's hearts tremble. Jin Di was so angry that he immediately went forward without care. Boom! A ball of golden flame burned fiercely in front of him. Terrible air waves rolled over and the scorching heat made him suffer. Jin Di let out a shrill scream and his body flew backward. Bang! His body fell heavily to the ground, making a muffled sound. The sound of bones breaking could be heard clearly, and even his face and body were full of blood. He was in a sorry state and his aura was weak, very miserable. Everyone was shocked on the spot. No one expected that Rong Xiu would suddenly attack. And the moment he attacked, he was so ruthless. The opponent was the second in command of the Golden Wing sect, Jin Di. Jin Di wanted to speak, but blood kept gushing out between his lips and teeth, choking him until he coughed. A terrifying cold aura instantly enveloped him. It almost made him unable to move. At this moment, Jin Di felt an incomparably sharp killing intent. He had no doubt that as long as he opened his mouth to say another word, Rong Xiu would not hesitate to kill him on the spot. He curled up his body, reluctantly raised his head and glanced at Rong Xiu. But he saw that handsome young man who looked like a demon and immortal smiled slightly. "In front of you still want to have evil thoughts about her? Do you think I am dead?" Digression. I fell asleep at 4 o'clock yesterday and I went crazy. Boo-hoo. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, boo-hoo. The star of the monthly votes has not been verified yet, so we don't want it anymore. Boo. Mobile users, please browse and read, a better reading experience from love. Chapter 14:18. The man's voice was as cold and pleasant as ever, and there was even a casual smile at the corners of his lips. It was as if it was just a casual conversation between friends. However, at this moment, in the eyes of everyone, he was no different from the god of death who had come out of the inferno hell. Every word and sentence revealed an absolute power and dominance. It was not until now that some people suddenly remembered the identity of this man. The holy son of the Yuntian Tower. He could grow from an illegitimate child who was bullied and despised to an overlord who sat firmly on the first seat of the Yuntian Tower. How could he be a pushover? His previous polite attitude made everyone relax their vigilance, and even some of them did not take him seriously. It was not until now that he brazenly attacked that they realized that he was indeed a master who killed without blinking an eye. Second master. Seeing this, several subordinates of the Golden Wing sect cried out worriedly and hurriedly rushed to Jindi's side. Second master. Are you all right? How could he be all right? Jindi was furious. Come and help me up. Although his tone was fierce, he was injured at this time and his breath was weak, so this angry rebuke did not have much power. However, the people below still did not dare to neglect and hurriedly and carefully helped him up. Jindi was trembling with pain. Several of his bones were broken and when he gently breathed, his chest could not stop the pain. It was as if someone was holding a few knives and constantly stabbing inside. As soon as he stood up, Jindi pushed the people next to him away. Go away. You blind thing. Several subordinates staggered and almost fell to the ground, but they did not dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction. They still looked at Jindi nervously and begged for mercy as if they were afraid of being blamed. Jindi was angry. In front of so many people he was beaten like this by Xiao. He had lost all his face. The point was that Xiao only used one move from beginning to end. After all, he was dozens of years older than Xiao. Being beaten black and blue by a young junior in public without any power to fight back, no one would feel good about it, let alone Jindi, who had always been arrogant and domineering, looking down on everyone. But he did not dare to get angry at Xiao. Inexplicably, he was a little afraid of Xiao in his heart. He couldn't tell where this feeling came from, but it lingered in his heart and wouldn't go away. This made him more and more depressed, so he could only vent his resentment on the subordinates around him. Xiao. Jindi will remember today's account. In the end, she still had to get back some face. Jindi mustered up her courage and angrily left a sentence. Xiao did not care. He had heard this many times before. However, almost no one had a chance to get back at him again. This is Lingxiao College and I am also a student of the college. I don't want to make things too ugly here. If you all want to have a good discussion, then let's talk calmly. But if you all cross the line and offend me again, don't blame I for not showing mercy. As Xiao spoke, he cupped his hands at Elder Bo Yen and said apologetically, I've ruined the college grounds. I hope Elder Bo Yen can forgive me for dirtying the college grounds. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched. This man was really ruthless to the extreme. Not only did he beat him black and blue, he even stepped on his face. Yet at the same time he acted as if he was innocent and had no choice but to do everything. This, Elder Bo Yen coughed. Ahem. It's fine. In fact, he did not expect Xiao to make a move just now. He wanted to stop him, but this thought only flashed through his mind and he ignored it. Stop what? At this time, someone had to stand up and use a thunderous method to intimidate these people. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Otherwise, they would really think that Lingxiao College and Yuntian Tower were easy to bully. Jindi was so angry that her whole body trembled. She turned around angrily and limped away. The rest of the Golden Wing sect quickly followed. The group of people quickly disappeared. After such a commotion, the rest of the people did not have the mood to stay any longer and left. Even if they still had some thoughts about Chuyu, they knew that they could not show it now. Didn't you see that Xiao was determined to protect Chuyu? Lingxiao College was not to be trifled with, and Xiao was even more so. They could only suppress the unwillingness and curiosity in their hearts and leave. After they all left, Elder Bo Yen could not help but sigh and look at Xiao with a complicated gaze. Xiao, today's matter is all thanks to you. If Xiao did not stand up, those people would not know how long they would be entangled. It's what I should do. Xiao smiled. Moreover, I have been displeased with the people of Golden Wing sect for a long time. Today was just a warning. If they continued to push their luck, he would not let them off easily. Elder Bo Yen glanced at Xiao and saw the cold killing intent in his eyes. It was like floating ice and snow and was faintly discernible. He could not help but be shocked. Xiao. His protection and care for Chuyu was even more shocking than expected. Even if those people treated Xiao the same way, he might not be so angry. Chuyu was Xiao's reverse scale. Elder Bo Yen recalled what Xiao said before. He and Chuyu, were they really brothers? He really could not tell that Xiao treated his family like this. He had always thought that with Xiao's cold and indifferent personality, he would not care about anyone. That's right, he heard that his birth mother had passed away when he was very young. Perhaps it was because of this that he was especially concerned about Chuyu? After all, if Chuyu was really his brother, then he was his only blood relative. No wonder Chuyu had always been secretive about his identity and was unwilling to say more. Thinking of this, Elder Bo Yen felt some heartache for Chuyu. You did very well. After today's matter, they should be able to stop for a while. With that, Elder Bo Yen turned and left. That's right, when Chuyu comes out from Pingmin Mountain, you should comfort him again. Don't let him feel wronged. In the end, being locked up in Pingmin Mountain was a punishment. He did not really do anything wrong, but he was locked up. It was really unfair. Rong Xiu stopped in his tracks. A smile flashed past the corner of his eyes. Got it. Going to Pingmin Mountain, she shouldn't feel wronged, right? Rong Xiu thought as he followed Elder Bo Yen across the barrier and returned to the academy. He looked in the direction of Pingmin Mountain. It was peaceful and calm. However, under the seemingly calm surface of the lake, there was a crazily surging undercurrent. No one knew when it would suddenly erupt and stir up a shocking storm. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1419. Yuntian Tower. Wanzhong Mountain. On the steep and tall mountain peak, the forest was lush and full of vitality. Sunlight shone down, casting mottled light and shadows in the forest. Thick layers of fallen leaves were piled up on the ground. When one stepped on them, creaking sounds could be heard. A gentle breeze blew and the leaves rustled. It was a rare moment of tranquility. But only when one was in the midst of it, one could feel that every blade of grass and every tree in the surroundings contained a shocking amount of power, causing one to unconsciously feel pressured. 3 figures passed through the forest and headed towards the peak of the mountain. It was 36 respected Elder Ming and the other 2. Along the way, the 3 of them didn't speak much. It was excessively quiet. 36 respected Elder Ming, who was walking at the front, had an expressionless face. Jiang Jiwan and respected Elder Yu Jing, who were behind him, were comparatively more relaxed. To be able to gain the upper hand in the dispute with 36 respected Elder Ming, they were naturally in a good mood. Needless to say, Jiang Jiwan had struggled out of that hopeless situation. Now that there was a glimmer of hope, her footsteps were much lighter. She clenched the item in her hand tightly and exhaled softly. Luckily, the clan leader had left her such a trump card back then. Now she had already entered the Yuntian Tower, and she was going there to accompany the clan leader. Without any special circumstances, no one could casually chase her out. 36 respected Elder Ming walked in front. Even if he didn't turn his head, he could imagine what kind of proud and arrogant expression Jiang Ziyuan would have right now. He furrowed his brows quickly. He really couldn't understand what the clan leader was thinking. He actually gave such an important token to an outsider like Jiang Jiwan. Could it be that he really treated Jiang Jiwan as his own granddaughter? I wonder if the Holy Sun knows about this matter. Soon the 3 of them arrived at the mountain peak in silence. In the middle of the mountain peak there was a huge white jade relief. If one looked down from above, they would be able to see that it was actually a circular door. The door was engraved with the totem of the Yuntian Tower. 36 respected Elder Ming stood at the side and cupped his hands in greeting. Jiang Jiwan and Elder Yujing also did the same. The totem was silent. Clearly, the patriarch still had no intention of coming out of seclusion. 36 respected Elder Ming turned around and looked at Jiang Jiwan. Since you have the patriarch's token in your hands, there is nothing wrong with staying here. But from today onward you must stay here and guard this place. Unless the patriarch leaves his closed-door cultivation, otherwise, you're absolutely not allowed to take a step out of Myriad Bow Mountain. His voice was deep and powerful like a heavy hammer pounding on the heart. Jiang Jiwan calmed herself down and lowered her eyes. Yes. Ziyuan would definitely abide by the rules and wouldn't dare to disobey. 36 respected Elder Ming's chest felt a little stuffy. However, since things had already come to this point, it was not good for him to get angry. Thus he did not say anything else. Elder Yu Jing's attitude towards Jiang Jiwan was much better. Ziyuan, I'll have to trouble you in the coming days. Jiang Jiwan pursed her lips and smiled. It's not hard at all. This is what Ziyuan should do. Elder Yu Jing nodded approvingly. He thought that Jiang Jiwan was finished and that the Immortal Water Mausoleum was also doomed. Who would have thought that she actually had such a trump card? The fact that the patriarch was willing to give the token to Jiang Jiwan was enough to show how much he valued her. If he could come out of seclusion quickly, he might be able to stand up for Jiang Jiwan. At that time it would be hard to say what the situation would be like. He had a deep connection with the Immortal Water Mausoleum. Of course he hoped that they could be well. As long as Jiang Jun could hold on. Since you have such filial piety, the patriarch's treatment of you is not in vain. Elder Yu Jing gave a few more words of advice before leaving with 36 respected Elder Ming. The two of them leaped and quickly disappeared into the distance. Jiang Jiwan stared at their backs for a long while. Only when she was sure that they had completely left did the humble and respectful smile on her face gradually fade. Pfft! She snorted softly and carefully put away the token. Then she turned around and glanced at the huge totem in the middle of the mountain peak. Patriarch, it's all thanks to you this time. She stood in place for a while to calm her thoughts. Then she knelt down at a spot beside him. Her movements were careful and her posture was respectful. It looked like she was sincerely waiting for the patriarch to come out of seclusion. No matter who saw it, they wouldn't be able to find any fault with it. After this torment, Jiang Jiwan's many wounds split open. Her clothes were stained with blood. However, she deliberately ignored it and just let it be. Although Wanzhong Mountain had a revered status and was heavily guarded, very few people could come here normally. However, there were still many people coming and going here. Moreover, they were basically people with status in the Yuntian Tower. Since she was already here, she naturally had to fight for a good reputation. For the time being, she couldn't stay in the outside world. She had to grab onto this one and only straw. More importantly, Wanzhong Mountain's geographical location was extremely good. Staying here, she could see a lot of scenery. He could even see Duming Peak in the distance. The sacrificial god hall was on Duming Peak. It was also the Holy Sun Rongxia's palace. Of course, it was also the residence of the current princess consort. After kneeling properly, Jiang Ziyuan raised her head and gazed into the distance. A somewhat familiar figure suddenly flew out from the top of Duming Peak. Jiang Jiwan narrowed her eyes. That person seemed to be Yanqing? That's right. During the time when Rongxiu returned to Lingxiao College, there didn't seem to be anyone following him around. Seeing that Yanqing seemed to be in a hurry, what was she going to do? Jiang Jiwan looked over there and slowly clenched her fists. Shengguan Yu, was she there too? Digression. I need to verify the people around me as soon as possible. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, I still couldn't sleep at noon today. Wu, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1420. It was said that after Shengguan Yu became the princess consort, she had been standing in the sacrificial god temple on Duming Peak. After Rongxiu went to Lingxiao College, Shengguan Yu focused on her cultivation and rarely came out. However, who knew if that person was still inside? In fact, Jiang Jiwan's suspicions had never been completely dispelled. She really wanted to go and find out, but unfortunately she could only stay in Wanzhong Mountain and not leave. Moreover, there was a barrier outside Duming Peak, so she couldn't see what was going on inside. Jiang Jiwan looked around for a while and relaxed her straight body in disappointment. She was a little annoyed. Everyone was watching, so she couldn't investigate by herself. If she wanted to know the truth, it seemed like she had to find someone else to investigate. The sacrificial god temple was Rongxiu's bedroom and had always been heavily guarded. Even if there were some revered elders, they had to ask for permission from Rongxiu before they could go in. Let alone other people. Especially after she rashly barged in last time, Rongxiu was furious and severely punished the guard who let her in without permission. It was obvious that it would be as difficult as ascending to the sky if she wanted to go in now. Jiang Jiwan thought to herself. She had to find a suitable person. Jiang Jiwan's arrival caused quite a stir in Yuntian Tower. The news of her being expelled from Lingxiao College had spread like wildfire in the world of God, and her reputation had hit rock bottom. Moreover, she seemed to have offended the Liang family and was in trouble. Everyone clearly knew that accepting Jiang Jiwan now would do more harm than good to Yuntian Tower. However, she still came in and really went to Wanzhong Mountain to wait for the clan leader to come out. Not only were the people below confused, but many important people in Yuntian Tower also didn't understand why the 36 revered elders and revered elder Yu Jing let her in. Because it involved the patriarch's keepsake, the two revered elders didn't announce too much to the public. Thus, after much thought, they could only understand that the Yuntian Tower was willing to do this because of the Jiang family's many years of loyalty. However, Yuntian Tower was a first-class family after all, so they didn't take this matter to heart. 2 days later, the topic gradually died down and almost no one talked about it anymore. Jiang Juwan stayed quietly in the myriad Bell Mountain, as if she had hidden herself. Red Moon Desert. In the dark night, a blood-red moon hung in the air. The faint light of the bright moon enveloped the earth, plating everything with a layer of faint crimson. Silence reigned over the vast desert. Behind a sand dune, Mu Hongyu was sitting cross-legged. Every night the Red Moon Desert would always be very cold. Even though it looked no different from daytime, the temperature difference was extremely great. It was almost bone-chilling. Mu Hongyu's eyes were tightly shut, and a layer of white frost had condensed on her face and body. Luckily, the surrounding heaven and earth force kept flowing into her body, strengthening her aura. The surging force made her body warm up, which was just enough to resist the cold. After staying in the Red Moon Desert for a few months, she could already find this balance perfectly. Time passed slowly and it was quiet and serene. Below the lake not far away it was a different scene. In the dark and cramped cage, the crimson moonlight shone in from an unknown source. Those intertwining streams of light were like frost meeting fire, and they quickly melted. Within the time it took to brew a cup of tea, they disappeared without a trace. When the last ray of light that passed through his body melted, Lan Xiao finally couldn't take it anymore and fell to the ground. Dugu Maobao and Diwu Zhangzi, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately went forward. Buzz. Dugu Maobao flicked his finger and a purple light flew out, forming a strange totem above Lan Zhao's head. Lan Zhao's body was instantly enveloped by this somewhat demonic and noble purple light. His translucent figure began to solidify. His aura also started to improve. However, at this moment, the lines on the surrounding walls seemed to have sensed something and became restless. Diwu Zhangzi stood at the side, his hands folded in front of him and his mouth kept chanting something. The syllables were vague as if they came from the distant and vast ancient times, sometimes low and sometimes high. It carried a power and pressure that made one's heart tremble. Under the influence of this mysterious power, the surrounding movements gradually calmed down. That purple totem also gradually lost its color and became completely transparent. Finally, it turned into thousands of light spots and merged into Lan Zhao's body. After a long time, Lan Xiao finally opened his eyes slowly. Seeing Dugu Maobao standing in front of him, he frowned slightly. Big Bao? Why are you back? Dugu Maobao narrowed his eyes. If I don't come back, I'm afraid I won't even be able to see you for the last time, right? Lan Xiao laughed softly. Although he was still a little weak, he was much better than before. Can't you speak properly? It was clearly out of concern, but he had to make it sound so unpleasant. He caressed his face lazily and touched the shocking scar. He shook his head regretfully and sighed. What a pity. I have to wear this face for a while. Just thinking about it made him uncomfortable. He probably wouldn't be able to sleep well for a while. Diwu Zhangzi's eyelids twitched. He held it in and didn't scold him. He was about to lose his life. How could he care about that face? If he didn't know Lan Zhao's personality was like this, he would really go up and give him a good beating. Dugu Maobao said coldly. If you don't want the other half of your face to rot, stay here obediently. Some stupid things can only be done once. If you do it again, Lan Xiao waved his hand nonchalantly. What's wrong with that? Aren't I still fine? As he said that, he couldn't help but look at Dugu Maobao, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. However, there's no hope for you to speak properly. In this world only you can stand you. At the mention of this, his voice became much gentler with a hint of indulgence. By the way, where is she? At the mention of this, Lan Xiao looked around. She didn't come back with you? Dugu Maobao said calmly. She's at Pingmin Mountain. Lan Xiao paused and his expression was strange. That place? Forget it. Let's not talk about her first. Why did you suddenly fight with someone? Although Lan Zhao's tone was as casual as usual, there was more seriousness in his eyes. According to their current situation, Dugu Maobao should know what kind of trouble they would attract if they fought in the Divine Ruins world. This was also why he risked his life to forcefully reconstruct his divine body after learning about this matter. Dugu Maobao was silent for a moment and briefly explained what happened in the Eldritch Wilderness North. After a short silence, Lan Xiao touched the corners of his eyes and sighed with a half smile. So it involves Ling Xiao Academy. No wonder you're like this. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1421. Dugu Mabao's eyelids drooped slightly. His thick and long eyelashes cast a faint shadow under his eyelids, making it impossible to see his emotions. Diwu Xianxia couldn't help but sigh. Since it's already happened, there's no point in saying anything more. Let's think about how to deal with the upcoming situation. Dabao, you said that you sealed off the news? Dugu Mabao nodded. There shouldn't be any problems in the short term. Let's be careful. Diwu Xianxia pondered for a moment and said hesitantly, for safety's sake, it's better for you to continue staying in the Red Moon Desert. Don't go back to the Divine Ruins world. Dugu Mabao frowned slightly. About you, didn't you say that Rong Xiao is also there? With him looking after her, I can rest assured. It was rare for Diwu Xianxia to be so insistent. Under normal circumstances, the three of them were centered around Dugu Mabao. Most of the decisions were made by him. Lan Xiao would also occasionally chime in. Diwu Xianxia was the one who smoothed things over. But now Dugu Mabao had made a move in the Divine Ruins world. Those people would definitely find out and investigate. And Lan Xiao was seriously injured and couldn't fight at all. At such a time he naturally had to stand up. Dugu Mabao didn't say anything. Of course he also knew that under the current circumstances, this was the best way. But, over at Yuer's side he was still somewhat worried. I originally wanted you to bring Hongyu with you to the Divine Ruins world, but now it seems that we have to think of another way. Diwu Xianxia stroked his beard. After spending some time together he also liked Mu Hongyu very much. Although this little girl was young, she had a lively personality and had a tenacious spirit. No matter how much she suffered, she never complained that she was tired. With such a character, her future was limitless. If she were to go to the Spirit Firmament Academy, she would be able to accompany you, Dugu Mabao pondered for a moment. I'll send her there. The night gradually faded and a touch of gold appeared on the horizon. Mu Hongyu slowly opened her eyes. The frost around her body quickly melted, and the surrounding temperature began to rise. The sunlight gradually brightened. Everything was the same as before. She stood up and stretched herself. In the next moment her figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Whoosh! On another sand dune in the Red Moon Desert, a black crack appeared in the void. A slender and tall figure flashed out from within. It was Mu Hongyu. There was a smile on her face. Looks like I'm not far away from teleporting 100 miles. Senior Diwu said that as long as she broke through to the God Realm, her strength would be greatly improved. I really don't know when that day will arrive. Redfish. A familiar deep voice entered his ears. Mu Hongyu was stunned and looked up. There was no one in front of her. However, the yellow sand in front of him began to flow slowly. Senior Diwu? Mu Hongyu was a little surprised. Could it be that this was another test? Today I will send you to the Lingxiao College in the Divine Ruins world. After you get there you will take the entrance exam directly. Yer will also be there. Mu Hongyu was surprised and happy. Really? She had been waiting for this day for a long time. A stream of light flew over. Mu Hongyu hurriedly caught it with both hands, and only then did she see that it was a palm-sized jade box. She hesitated for a moment and then opened the jade box. A roll of paper lay quietly in the middle of it. This is the map to the Lingxiao College. After you get there just follow the route on it. Mu Hongyu wanted to pick up the paper, but when she got closer she felt a strong pressure. There is a barrier on it and it will automatically open when you reach the Divine Ruins world. Diwu Xianxia explained. Mu Hongyu nodded repeatedly and looked at it curiously again. Only then did she close the box and carefully put it away. At this time she realized that a huge Xian formation had gathered above the yellow sand in front of her. A heavy, desolate and powerful aura gradually spread out from within. Mu Hongyu's heart trembled. Hongyu, go up. Mu Hongyu nodded and walked over step by step. The moment she stepped into this special Xian formation, she immediately felt that she was surrounded by some kind of power. But fortunately this power seemed to be controlled by someone and it did not affect her too much. She walked to the center. A ray of light suddenly shone into her eyes. She squinted and looked over. Only then did she see that there was a small purple scale at the center of the Xian formation under her feet. At first glance it looked very ordinary. Only when she got closer did she realize that the purple was extremely rich and pure. Under the sunlight, It reflected a dazzling brilliance that moved one's heart. This huge, profound formation seemed to be controlled by this piece of scale. Oh right, has changed her identity in Lingxiao College. She is now called Chuyu. You will know when you get there. Diwu Zhangzi reminded her. Mu Hongyu was a little surprised, but she still nodded seriously. Hongyu understands. Buzz. In the next moment, purple light suddenly erupted from the scale. It enveloped Mu Hongyu. Above the Xian formation there was heavy pressure. Soon the surrounding void began to collapse. Violent winds raged. Mu Hongyu's figure quickly disappeared. Lingxiao College. After those people retreated, the college seemed to have returned to its usual peace. Everyone seemed to have come to an agreement and did not mention this matter again. They did not even talk about anything related to the primeval north. When Yanqing arrived at the college, he felt that the atmosphere here seemed to be different from before. He guessed that it was related to the recent events. After all, the matter had blown up so much that almost the entire Divine Ruins world knew about it. He did not ask much. After explaining his purpose to the elder in charge of guarding the barrier, he lowered his eyes and waited at the side. The elders basically knew that Yanqing was Rong Xiu's confidant, so their attitude was very amiable. After a while, someone came to report and invited Yanqing in. The person in charge of leading the way was a student of the college. He brought him directly to Jiuheng Mountain. According to the rules, outsiders cannot stay in the college for more than a day. Please. The student was a little reserved in front of Yanqing. Yanqing immediately said, I know all this. Don't worry, I will leave immediately after this matter is settled. The student heaved a sigh of relief. Then I won't disturb you. Please. It was very difficult for people who were not from Lingxiao College to enter the college. However, with Rong Xiu around, Yanqing's side was more successful. After the student left, Yanqing looked at Jiuheng Mountain in front of him. He was about to speak when the barrier in front of him suddenly opened slowly. Yanqing flew in without hesitation. After entering, Yanqing saw Rong Xiu playing chess in the room. He immediately knelt down and bowed. Greetings, Your Highness. Digression. There is a pinned comment event carefully organized by Doriko. Everyone please participate. Yesterday I was woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning and couldn't sleep. Today I went crazy again. 6 o'clock in the evening. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1422. Get up. Rong Xiu put down a piece and looked back at him. Did you bring everything? Yanqing got up and said quickly, Yes, I did. Yes, according to your instructions, we've prepared double the amount. As he spoke, he presented an interspatial ring with both hands. Don't worry, the materials are all the ones you picked out. Rong Xiu lifted his slender fingers and the interspatial ring flew into his hand. After probing it with his divine sense, he nodded lightly. When she came out of Mount Pingmin, she would be able to wear these clothes. But, Yanqing, you came a day later than expected. Did something happen that delayed you? Rong Xiu put away the ring and asked lightly. Yanqing held his breath and cupped his fists. Your Highness, I found something strange in the tomb of Immortal Water, so I sent people to investigate. I came late because I wanted to wait for them to report back. A light flashed across Rong Xiu's eyes. Tell me about it. Yanqing paused for a moment, then looked up at Rong Xiu and said word by word. I found that Jiang Hetian of the Tomb of Immortal Water seemed to be in frequent contact with an outsider. An outsider? Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows. Yes. I refuse to investigate. That outsider seems to... Yanqing hesitated for a moment, then continued. It seems to be from the Taiyu dynasty. Tan Taichen. Tan Taichen? Rong Xiu had heard of this name before. He thought for a moment, then suddenly laughed lightly. So it's him. Although he was laughing, his voice was a little cold and carried a bit of coldness. Yanqing also remembered this Tan Taichen. Back then, Jun Jiuqing had set a trap for several major dynasties, including the Tianling dynasty, to gather in the northern underworld. Tan Taichen was one of them. At that time he had already formed a grudge with Chu Liyue. From the clues he found, his precious daughter Tantai Ruoli had also died in Chu Liyue's hands at that time. Although there was no evidence to prove this, Tan Taichen had always been hostile to Chu Liyue. He had always believed this. It wasn't the first day or two that he wanted to take revenge. I don't know how he got in touch with the Mausoleum of Immortal Water. They've been exchanging messages frequently this month. Perhaps they're discussing something. Yanqing frowned slightly, and a hint of killing intent appeared on her ice-cold face. Your Highness, do you want me to? He made a kill gesture. There was no need to worry too much about a mere emperor of the Taiyu dynasty. They could just kill him. Rongxiu raised his hand and raised his eyebrows, showing some interest. There's no rush. I want to see what the Mausoleum of Immortal Water is planning. Thinking about it carefully, it wasn't strange that Tan Taichen would come to the Mausoleum of Immortal Water. When he had announced Chu Liuyue's identity at the Yuntian Tower, he had used the name Shangguanyu. If someone investigated, it wouldn't be difficult to find out that she was from the Tianling dynasty. There was no need to think about what Tan Taichen was thinking. And the Mausoleum of Immortal Water was so close to him. Obviously their motives weren't pure. When these two sides were together, Tan Taichen wants to kill the princess. The people of the Mausoleum of Immortal Water wouldn't know, but they're still close to him. Their intentions. Yanqing frowned, her expression grave. The Jiang family was crazy. Were they really planning to do something to the princess? The princess was now the ruler and they were her subjects. Their actions were simply disobeying their superiors. It was treason. However, Rongxiu didn't seem to be angry as a faint smile flashed across his lips. Even if Tan Taichen doesn't exist, there will be others. In the past few years, the Mausoleum of Immortal Water had always been the strongest among the 28 tribes. Coupled with the clan leader's favoritism, the Mausoleum of Immortal Water had forgotten its status and wanted to be on equal footing with the Yuntian Tower. Everything had been planned well. But now, the princess position that they had been planning for so long had fallen into the hands of others. They had no chance of ascending, so of course they were angry. It wasn't impossible for a cornered dog to do something desperate. Hearing Rongxiu's words, Yanqing couldn't help but ask, "What does your highness plan to do?" When I came down, Jiang Jiwan had already ascended Wanzhong Mountain. Yanqing didn't know why 36 respected elder Ming had allowed Jiang Jiwan to enter the Yuntian Tower, but there must be a special reason. And that reason might be the reason why Jiang Jiwan dared to run to the Yuntian Tower to seek refuge at this juncture. Let her stay there for now. Rongxiu picked up a chess piece from the jar, rubbed it in his hand for a moment and smiled faintly. The clan leader is about to come out of seclusion. If he can see her immediately, he will be very happy. Yanqing was shocked. She suddenly raised her head, only to see Rongxiu's calm expression. You mean, but the clan leader didn't clap. The chess piece landed on the chessboard, making a crisp sound. Send someone to keep an eye on Jiang Jiwan. Also, before I return, no one is allowed to enter the sacrificial temple. As he spoke, Rongxiu waved his wrist. A thin piece of paper flew in front of Yanqing. He immediately caught it with both hands. That piece of paper was completely blank. There was not a single word on it. However, it was covered with a layer of extremely faint golden light. The powerful pressure was shocking. If anyone dares to act presumptuously, take I's personal order. No matter who it is, stop them. Regardless of life or death. Yanqing's heart trembled. Yes. Yanqing soon came out of Juheng Mountain. He didn't stay in the academy any longer and flew straight back to the barrier. After asking for instructions from the elder in charge of guarding, he quickly left. The whole process was straightforward and without any hesitation. Everyone only thought that he was here to report to Rongxiu about the Yuntian Tower, and didn't take it too seriously. After a few private conversations, they threw this matter to the back of their minds. Pingmin Mountain. Inside the tower, Chu Liyue sat cross-legged quietly. After fusing with that divine power, her aura had strengthened a lot. As time passed, she was getting closer and closer to the invisible barrier. Vaguely, she felt that as long as she lifted her foot, she would be able to step into the higher threshold. Inside her dantian, the water droplet was as calm as before. The power that was constantly gathering around it was like a tide wrapping around it. It was as if it was only waiting for the right time to overturn everything. And the seal on the black pyramid was gradually loosening under the impact of the power. Rays of faint light came out from it. That extremely familiar feeling was constantly accumulating. It was as if it would break out at any time. On the top floor, Elder Meng had returned to his seat and sat down. At a certain moment he suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the door in front of him. For some reason he faintly felt that this door seemed to have undergone a subtle change. He stood up and walked to the door. He stretched out his hand and gently placed it on the door. It was slightly cold to the touch. Other than that, it was calm without any wind. Maybe I'm overthinking. Elder Meng put away his thoughts, shook his head and walked back, no longer thinking about it. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1423. After sending Jiang Jiwan to the Yuntian Tower, Jiang Hetian went straight back to the Immortal Water Mausoleum. Perhaps because of the Yuntian Tower's support, some elders who had intended to question Jiang Hetian and his daughter chose to give up. Occasionally there were a few people who wanted to ask why Jiang Jiwan was expelled from Lingshao College, but Jiang Hetian brushed them off perfunctorily. Of course he could not say that he had betrayed his master and the college. Otherwise, even if Jiang Jiwan could avoid the limelight in the Yuntian Tower, she would be despised when she returned in the future. That was not what Jiang Hetian wanted to see. He had spent a lot of effort to cultivate Jiang Jiwan over the years. How could he fail so badly? Therefore, after returning, he did not slack off and had been thinking of ways to solve the current predicament. In the study, Jiang Hetian was sitting behind the desk, flipping through the memorials and letters that he had not had time to read during this period of time. When he flipped to one of the letters, his expression froze. He involuntarily sat up straight and looked around. After making sure that no one would come in to disturb him, he carefully opened the letter. He pulled out a slightly yellowed and rough piece of paper from it. A faint bitter fragrance wafted from the letter paper. Jiang Hetian took out a green jade bottle from his ring of cosmos. With a flick of his finger, the stopper fell off. A faint layer of white smoke wafted out. Jiang Hetian picked up the letter, placed it in the mouth of the green jade bottle and smoked it with the white smoke. A few lines of handwriting gradually appeared. He stared at it and read it carefully. Immediately, his thick eyebrows furrowed tightly, and his eyes were filled with surprise and doubt. After a while, the letter suddenly burst into flames. Boom! A cluster of orange flames burned, and in the blink of an eye, the letter was devoured completely. Not even a speck of ash fell. Apart from the faint smell of burning things in the air, there was no trace of the letter. However, Jiang Hetian fell into shock and contemplation. Shengguan, I didn't know it had such an experience. Some time ago, a man by the name of Tan Taichen had sent a letter to him saying that he knew a lot about the current princess of the Yuntian Tower, Shengguan. Initially, Jiang Hetian was worried that the other party was up to something. However, the other party had clearly stated in the letter that Shengguan had killed his daughter and that there was a deep hatred between them. However, now that Shengguan had ascended to the immortal realm, Jiang Hetian could no longer deal with him alone. Therefore, he had come to the tomb of immortal water, hoping that the two parties could work together. Regarding this, Jiang Hetian maintained a skeptical attitude. Initially, he wanted to ignore it, but he was afraid that he would miss an opportunity to deal with Shengguan, so he secretly sent someone to investigate. It was only later that he realized that the other party was telling the truth. He finally believed him and replied to Tan Taichen. He hoped that Tan Taichen could tell him everything that had happened in Shengguan. Know yourself and know your enemy and you will never be defeated. Previously, the people that he had sent to investigate Shengguan had all returned empty-handed. Until now he still knew nothing about Shanghai. Although he didn't know how Tan Taichen had found him, it didn't matter to Jiang Hetian. He just wanted to know how he could take down Shengguan. However, Tan Taichen wasn't completely unscrupulous. Every time he sent a letter, he would write a little about Shengguan, but he wouldn't reveal everything. This made Jiang Hetian anxious. If they hadn't agreed to not contact each other in the real world to avoid unnecessary trouble, Jiang Hetian would have already gone to look for Tan Taichen. Although there weren't many words in the letter, it contained a lot of information. This was because it clearly stated that Shengguan hadn't really died after being killed. She had returned to Tianling with another identity, Chu Liyue. However, Chu Liyue's background was in Empire Yaochen. That was where Wuxia was born. Unfortunately, the letter didn't explain how Shengguan came to possess Chu Liyue's identity. Was it possession or... Tan Taichen also said that he had sent people to investigate Chu Liyue, but they could only find some superficial information. However, he couldn't find out anything else. Jiang Hetian was the same. It was as if there was an invisible hand protecting Shengguan from the dark. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find anything. Could it be that the incident in Shengguan had something to do with the saint? If that wasn't the case, he couldn't figure out why Shangguan Yu returned as Chu Liyue. If Rong Xiu really knew about all this, wouldn't it mean that he had been deeply in love with Shangguan Yu since a long time ago? But I've never heard of this before. Jiang Hetian slowly leaned back in his chair and fell into deep thought for a long time. How many secrets does Shangguan Yu have? He was hesitant about Tan Taichen's last suggestion. If he really did that, he would be investigated in the future. After some time, his expression changed as if he had made a decision. He picked up the writing brush next to him, spread out a piece of paper and began to write a letter. Lingshao College, Pingmin Mountain. It looked calm and peaceful outside. However, Chu Liyue, who was in the tower, was facing a huge impact. The force of heaven and earth quickly gathered and formed an energy vortex above her head. She closed her eyes tightly and her body was like a sponge, continuously absorbing the energy. Elder Meng had already come down from upstairs when he noticed the commotion. He stood on the second floor and looked at her with shock in his eyes. Is he about to break through? How long has he been here? Didn't he just break through to the 9th stage in the Eldritch Wilderness? Why is he whoosh? Chu Liyue heard the sound of the energy in her body surging like waves. Every inch of her muscles, bones and flesh was rapidly becoming stronger. There seemed to be a warm current flowing between her chest and abdomen, as if it couldn't wait to erupt. She focused all her attention and calmed her mind. She gathered all her energy and charged toward the water droplet in her dantian. However, at this moment, a crisp cracking sound was heard. Her heart skipped a beat. Daddy is in trouble. In an instant, her mind was in a mess and the majestic force in her body began to disperse. Intense pain came from all over her body and she almost fainted. Puff. Her body shook and she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. She fell to the ground. The surrounding energy was still wreaking havoc around her body. Soon her body was stained with blood. Elder Meng saw this and suddenly opened his eyes wide and rushed down. Chu Yu. Digression. I'm not in a good state today, so I'll leave first. I'll make up for it later. Thank you for your understanding. Also, is there really no one who wants to check the surroundings? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1424. Elder Meng carefully helped Chu Liyue up. He saw that her eyes were tightly shut, her face was pale and there was blood at the corner of her mouth. She looked very miserable and weak. Chu Yu, how are you? Elder Meng asked anxiously and worriedly. At the same time, he pinched Chu Liyue's wrist and placed 2 old fingers on her pulse. He was just about to separate a stream of force to check the situation in her body when he suddenly felt a terrifying aura surging out from Chu Liyue's body. Boom. Elder Meng was shocked and immediately let go of Chu Liyue's hand. Chu Liyue's wrist fell limply. Elder Meng was very anxious. This kid had encountered such a mishap when he was about to break through. The force in his body had become chaotic, rampaging and wanton. In just a short period of time, it had caused quite a lot of damage to his body. If he could not control it in time, he was afraid that the injury was a small matter. The most important thing was that if this matter was not handled well, it was very likely to affect Chu Yu's future cultivation. That would be an even more troublesome matter. Chu Yu. The force in Chu Liyue's body had already gone out of control. As an outsider, Elder Meng did not dare to act rashly. He was afraid that he would accidentally make a fool of himself. In this situation, if he acted forcefully, it might cause a second injury. The best way was to let Chu Yu wake up quickly and adjust his own aura. This way the damage would be minimized. However, no matter how he shouted, the young man remained unconscious and showed no signs of waking up. As time passed, the force in his body became even more frenzied. Chu Yu's aura also weakened. Just as Elder Meng was filled with worry, a violent energy fluctuation suddenly came from outside. He was shocked and looked up. Although he was inside the tower, his spiritual sense covered the entire Pingmin Mountain. Therefore, he was able to know everything that happened outside clearly at the first moment. After focusing for a moment, his eyes widened slightly. Rong Xiu? Why is he here? Could it be that he already knew that something had happened to Chu Yu? This thought quickly flashed through Elder Meng's mind. He hurriedly raised his hand and was about to open the barrier of Pingmin Mountain. Boom! A loud sound rang out. The enchantment of Pingmin Mountain was directly split open by Rong Xiu. Meng Lao's eyes flashed with horror. When did Rongxiu become so strong that he could directly open the barrier of Pingmin Mountain? Bang! Before he could figure it out, the door of the tower was forcefully opened from the outside. A tall white figure strode in from outside the door. It was Rongxiu. The warm smile on his face had long since disappeared, leaving behind only a biting chill. It was as if a layer of frost had condensed on it, and it was bone-chilling. Just a single glance was enough to send chills down one's spine. His speed was very fast, arriving in the main hall in the blink of an eye. The messy wind picked up the corners of his clothes, making them flutter in the air. Wherever it passed, it was as if a cold wind was blowing. Rongxiu. Elder Meng opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. The situation is urgent. Rongxiu trespassed into Pingmin Mountain and was forced to do so. Please forgive me, Meng Lao. Rongxiu's voice was low and cold. Although he was talking to Meng Lao, his pair of deep phoenix eyes were staring at Tu Liyue. There seemed to be waves in his eyes that could overturn everything at any time. Elder Meng was speechless for a moment and didn't know what to say. It was rare to see Rongxiu like this. Was he worried about Chuyu? While his thoughts were surging, Rongxiu had already walked over. He lifted his clothes, knelt down on one knee and stretched out his hand naturally. Elder Meng was stunned for a moment and subconsciously handed over Chuyu in his arms. Rongxiu carefully pulled her into his embrace. He used one hand to support her shoulders, and the other hand circled around her waist as he held her hand tightly. Don't. Elder Meng was just about to remind Rongxiu that Chuyu's body was in a very bad condition and couldn't be forcefully restrained from the outside. However, in the next moment he was shocked to find that the raging power around Chuyu's body was quickly restrained after meeting Rongxiu. A few faint golden rays of light shone through the gaps between the two's tightly clenched fingers. Bright, warm, powerful. Rongxiu silently devoured these powers and then found an opportunity to cut into his own power. The raging power in Chu Liyue's body was originally a little restless, but after meeting Rongxiu, it didn't resist fiercely and instead accepted his aura very obediently. Rongxiu helped Chu Liyue sort out the power in her body bit by bit until her breathing became stable. Beside them, Elder Meng was dumbfounded. What's going on? Why did he encounter so many obstacles when he was about to make a move, but when Rongxiu helped, it became so smooth? However, seeing Chu Liyue's complexion gradually improve, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. She was cultivating in seclusion here. Something happened. How was he going to explain it when he went out? After guarding Pingmin Mountain for so many years, such a situation had never happened. The chaotic aura in Chu Liyue's body finally calmed down. Only the blood at the corner of her mouth and on her body showed that she had been hovering on the edge of danger just now. Rongxiu picked her up and looked at Elder Meng. Elder Meng, she needs to rest now. Can you let us go up? Throughout the entire tower, every floor had a different meaning and the threshold to enter was also very different. Most importantly, except for the first floor, every floor above had a corresponding barrier that couldn't be easily opened. Only Elder Meng was in charge of all the barriers. Only he had the authority to open the barriers and let people up. Now that the first floor was filled with chaotic power and was in a mess, it was really not suitable to continue staying here. They had to find another place. Elder Meng was stunned and immediately said, Okay. There's a Millennium Frost Jade bed on the second floor that can help her recover. At this point there was no time to care about whether or not they could go up. It was more important to save her. Rongxiu nodded. Thank you, Elder Meng. Elder Meng looked at the person in his arms again, shook his head and sighed. What's this? As he said that, he turned around and quickened his pace, going up the stairs. He waved the horsetail whisk in his hand gently. The barrier on the second floor opened. Come up quickly. Elder Meng stood on the top and waved at Rongxiu. Rongxiu hugged her tighter and went up. The second floor seemed to be much smaller than the first floor, but it could also be that Elder Meng didn't open the other places. However, none of this was important to the current Rongxiu. He followed Old Meng all the way to where the 1,000-year chilled jade bed was. It was a jade bed that was dark green all over. It was crystal clear and there were some strange runes carved on it. It was mysterious and unfathomable. Rongxiu then carefully put her down, and his actions were excessively gentle. He took out a pill and fed it to Chu Liyue. Then he took a jade pillow and placed it under Chu Liyue's head to help her breathe smoothly. Finally, he took out a snow-white handkerchief and carefully wiped the blood at the corner of Chu Liyue's mouth. Elder Meng watched from the side. The more he looked, the more he felt that something was wrong. Hiss, why does it seem like Rong Xiu has taken care of Chuyu like this many times? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1425. Elder Meng felt that something was strange. Actually, it was normal for him to have such a question. Who was Rong Xiu? The holy son of the Yuntian Tower. He was above tens of thousands of people, wielding great power and was extremely respected. Even in the Divine Ruins world where there were many first-rate families and sects, experts were as common as clouds, he was still the most outstanding. Such a person could decide the life and death of a person with a single word. With a stomp of his foot, the entire Divine Ruins world would tremble. In the past, when he was in the academy, he was more restrained. At most, his personality was cold and cheerless, making it difficult for ordinary people to get close to him. However, after leaving the academy, he grew and changed at an astonishing speed. He reigned in the Yuntian Tower and made everyone united. He held real power and was domineering. Over the years, countless people had died at his hands. Most of his illustrious reputation was accumulated from the blood, tears, and bones of his former enemies. Such a person should be all-powerful, cutting through thorns and thorns from the wind and thunder, bathing in holy light and be respected by outsiders. Instead of, Elder Meng looked at the scene in front of him and couldn't find a suitable word to describe it. How should he put it? Rong Xiu, who was in front of Chuyu, seemed to have become another person. He was extremely patient and gentle. He was completely different from the rumored ruthless and decisive overlord of a region. Elder Meng recalled how Rong Xiu had taken Chuyu into his arms when he barged in. It was so natural, so smooth. He didn't even hesitate to kneel down. In this world, who could make Rong Xiu kneel down without any hesitation? And he did this only to take better care of Chuyu and not pull on the wounds on his body. The more Elder Meng thought about it, the more shocked he became. His heart beat rapidly as countless guesses flashed through his mind. He knew that the two of them had a good relationship, and from what Rong Xiu had said before, Chuyu was very likely to be his younger brother. But he never thought that Rong Xiu would actually do such a thing for Chuyu. What surprised him even more was that Rong Xiu's actions looked very strange alone, but when the two of them were together in the picture, it was unusually harmonious. There seemed to be a natural tacit understanding between the two. There seemed to be a subtle air current that surrounded the two of them and isolated them from the others. In that special world, only the two of them were present. No one else was able to enter it. Even getting close to it was extremely difficult. This feeling was hard to describe, but it was very strong. Elder Meng looked at them for a while and couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "It's not like I've never seen biological brothers before, but there aren't many who have such a good relationship with each other." At this time, Rong Xiu had put away the blood-stained handkerchief and replaced it with a new one. He carefully wiped the blood on Chu Liu's fingers. Just now, when the energy in her body collided, her aura was too fierce, causing many wounds to appear on her body. Fortunately, most of these wounds were small and not serious. As long as he recuperated well for a period of time, he would recover very quickly. The corner of Elder Meng's eyes twitched fiercely and he quickly looked away. Although he had already mentally prepared himself, he still couldn't accept it when he saw Rong Xiu taking care of Chuyu so attentively. "Rong Xiu, how is Chuyu's condition now?" Just now, he was afraid that he would hurt Chuyu if he forcefully helped, so he didn't even take his pulse properly. Rong Xiu cleaned the blood on Chu Liu's hands and said, "Don't worry too much. Although he is injured, fortunately it's not fatal. As long as he recuperates well, he will be able to recover." Elder Meng heaved a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good." Suddenly he seemed to have thought of something and asked worriedly, "That's right. Although this 1,000-year chilled jade bed can help him nourish his body, this is not the best place to recuperate. Should we?" Pingmin Mountain had a special status. To most students, it was a place of punishment. Whether it was the density and purity of the origin power or other things, it was actually inferior to several places outside. Rong Xiu paused. "Thank you for your concern, Elder Meng, but this place is good. Besides, he was just injured and the situation is urgent. It's better to rest nearby. If he goes out now, it's inevitable that he will be seen by others. At that time it will cause unnecessary trouble." Elder Meng thought about it carefully and felt that it was reasonable, so he nodded. "Then you take good care of him here first. I'll go tidy up the door and the barrier." Xiu barged in directly just now, so the barrier and the door probably had to be fixed. Xiu's thin lips moved. I'm sorry to trouble you, Elder Meng. It's no trouble at all. I was also shocked when I saw Chu Yu's condition, Elder Meng said, and glanced at Chu Liyue lying on the bed. Seeing that her face had a trace of color and was no longer as pale as before, his heart finally calmed down. After a few more words of advice, Elder Meng turned and left. Soon only Xiu and Chu Liyue were left here. Xiu lowered his eyes and a trace of pity flashed through his eyes. He sensed that something was wrong and immediately rushed here, but he didn't expect that he was still a step too late. Judging from her pulse just now, she should be trying to break through to the middle stage of the 9th level. Suddenly her mind was in a mess, which caused all the power to collide chaotically and fail. Moreover, the crazy and raging power that went out of control also caused a lot of damage to her body. However, she had always been firm in her mind. He didn't know what happened to make her like this, especially at such a critical moment. It was a small matter that she couldn't break through successfully, but if it affected her cultivation, Xiu's eyes were filled with dense killing intent. Someone must have used some underhanded means behind the scenes. Father. At this moment, a low moan full of pain and struggle overflowed from Chu Liyue's mouth. She was still frowning and her eyes were closed. She looked anxious and worried. A white light flashed in Xiu's heart. It's because of Chu Ning. 1,000 miles away, a boundless black wasteland. The lead gray sky was gloomy. Withered grass covered the wasteland, and a river meandered on the silent and cold land. Occasionally a few black crows flew across the sky, letting out desolate cries. A figure was walking on the wasteland. His clothes were ragged and he looked miserable. As he walked, many bloody wounds could be seen on his body. He lowered his head slightly and walked forward step by step in silence. His hands and feet were covered with heavy black chains, firmly restricting his freedom. At a certain moment he suddenly stepped on a sharp object and an intense pain hit him. He staggered and fell to the ground. Bang! There was a muffled sound. He was wrapped in pain all over his body. He panted and his cracked lips trembled slightly. Then he spat out a few words with difficulty. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1426. This person was Chu Ning, who had disappeared for a long time. He struggled to get up, but unfortunately his strength was almost exhausted. He tried several times before he could barely get up. His hands and knees were stained with a lot of mud. However, with his current sorry state, this was no longer a big deal. He finally straightened up and gasped for breath. Because of this series of movements, his face became even paler. There seemed to be sharp thorns moving back and forth between his chest and abdomen, almost completely crushing his internal organs. Several of his bones were broken and his blood and qi were exhausted. Now he was just relying on his tenacious willpower to force himself forward. He glanced down. In the withered grass, there was a piece of broken and sharp bone. Half of it was inserted into the ground, and the other half was hidden in the withered grass. He didn't see it just now, so he stepped on it. He didn't know whose bones were left here. Chu Ning retracted his gaze and continued to walk forward. The chains on his hands and feet seemed to have become heavier, and he couldn't breathe under the pressure. Every step he took was like walking on the tip of a sword. Everything on his body had been lost or damaged. Now all that was left was this tormented body, living like a walking corpse. He didn't know how he came to this place, nor did he remember how long he had been here. The only thing he could do was to keep moving forward, hoping that one day he could leave this place. Chu Ning swallowed the blood between his lips and teeth and clenched his teeth. He absolutely couldn't die. Was still waiting for him. Lingxiao College. Pingmin Mountain. On the first floor, after Elder Meng repaired the barrier and the gate, he couldn't help but look up, shaking his head and sighing. Fortunately, no one came to Pingmin Mountain and there were few people around. If not with the commotion that Xiu caused just now, if this matter was spread out, many people's jaws would drop. Elder Meng flicked his horsetail whisk, stroked his beard and planned to go up and take a look. Suddenly, a subtle fluctuation came from the 6-fan door. He frowned and immediately looked at the 6-fan door floating in the air. On the surface, these doors looked no different from usual. But Elder Meng had been guarding here for several years, and he was very familiar with everything here. He was certain that it wasn't an illusion. He walked to the 6 doors and stared at them for a while. However, that fluctuation did not appear again. Everything was calm as usual. Elder Meng frowned. I don't know what's going on recently, but these doors seem a little strange. At the thought of this, his heart skipped a beat and he hurried upstairs. When he passed by the 2nd floor, he stopped and said to Rongxiu, Rongxiu, take good care of him. Let me know if you need anything. Rongxiu gently nodded. Thank you, Elder Meng. After Elder Meng finished speaking, he waved his horsetail whisk and continued up. His footsteps seemed to be in a hurry. Rongxiu narrowed his eyes. He stood up and took a few steps forward. Standing beside the stairs, he looked down. There should have been 7 doors there, but now only 6 remained. His hand gently touched the railing and his slender white knuckles gently knocked twice. Then he raised his eyes to take a look. The tower staircase was right in the middle, spiraling all the way up. Looking up from here, layers of stairs intersected, forming an illusory yet orderly picture. Elder Meng's figure quickly disappeared from the top floor. Rongxiu's expression was calm, but his eyes were like a bottomless pool of water. No one could guess what he was thinking. Where the last door went was almost self-explanatory. A low murmur came from behind him. Rongxiu looked back. One of his hands slowly gripped the railing, and the veins on the back of his hand were vaguely visible. The failure of the breakthrough this time at such a critical juncture was bound to have a big impact on her. Fortunately, she was defeated when she was trying to break through the middle stage rank 9, so she could still handle it. This happened when she was breaking through to the God realm. Rongxiu's eyes darkened. After a while, he took something out of his universe ring. He rubbed his fingertips lightly and a layer of faint golden powder dissipated in the air. Outside Fong State City. In a secluded place in the wilderness, the void vibrated. With a flash of purple light, a slender and tall figure walked out of the black space crack. It was a young girl in a red dress. Her skin was a healthy wheat color, but it still could not hide the liveliness in her almond-shaped eyes. She exhaled softly. Phew, I'm finally here. She felt like she had been waiting in the transportation formation for a long time. Fortunately, the process was very smooth. Perhaps it was because that person was too strong, she did not feel the slightest bit of turbulence. Did he directly create a transportation formation? She smacked her lips. She was uncertain of her guess and she was even more shocked. She did not know how strong that person was. A gentle breeze blew her hair up, sticking it to her face. It was a little itchy. Mu Hongyu tucked her hair behind her ears and looked forward. A majestic and imposing city was standing not too far away. It was like a creeping giant beast and its aura was shocking. That should be Fong State City, right? Mu Hongyu took a deep breath. She clenched her fists to encourage herself and walked forward. Fong State City did not have a gate. Everyone could go in and out freely. Mu Hongyu walked in curiously. However, after walking on the streets for a while, Mu Hongyu realized that the situation here seemed to be a little different from what she had expected. There seemed to be fewer people here than she had expected. There were only 2 or 3 people on the streets. It was definitely not lively. Didn't they say that if one wanted to enter Lingxiao College they had to come to Fong State City first? As the #1 college in the Divine Ruins world, there should be countless cultivators in the world who rushed here to get a chance to cultivate, right? But no. After walking for a while, Mu Hongyu found a person on the side of the road and asked for directions. Before coming, Diwu Zhangzi had already told her a lot. So when she knew that she was here, she directly found Lingxiao College's examination site and took the entrance exam. Hearing her ask about Lingxiao College, the other party happily pointed the way. However, the way he looked at Mu Hongyu was a little strange. Mu Hongyu felt a little strange and touched her face. Big brother, did I do something wrong? The other party shook his head. Hee miss, this is your first time here, right? Mu Hongyu nodded. Do you know what happened at Lingxiao College recently? Mu Hongyu shook her head. No wonder. The man raised his chin and lowered his voice. You don't know, but some time ago many first-rate families and clans came to Fong State City to confront Lingxiao College. Although the 2 sides didn't fight in the end, there must be something fishy to make them do this in public. Now many people plan to wait and see what happens first to avoid getting into trouble. In Fong State City, no one has taken the entrance exam of Lingxiao College for more than half a month. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1427. Lingxiao College was powerful, but those aristocratic families were not to be trifled with. If they really joined forces, Lingxiao College might not be a match for them. At this time, normal people would be cautious and cautious. Only this kind of young girl from outside with no background would be in the dark and wholeheartedly want to go. I see. Mu Hongyu nodded thoughtfully. No wonder she felt that the atmosphere here was a little strange after she came. So there was such a thing in front of her? However, this could not affect her decision. Thank you, big brother. She smiled brightly and bowed sincerely to the other party. He kindly reminded her, so she had to thank him. But I have a friend who is also in Lingxiao College, so I still have to go and find her. Sigh, you child. Seeing that he could not persuade her, the big brother wanted to say a few more words, but when he saw the bright smile of the girl in front of him, he suddenly could not say the rest of his words. Suddenly he chuckled. Hey little girl, the friend you're in such a hurry to find is a young man, right? Mu Hongyu was about to say no, but then she remembered that Diwu Zhangzi had said before that Lu Yu was now in Lingxiao College with another identity, so she nodded. Yes. The big brother smiled and did not continue to ask. Okay, then hurry up and go. If you're late, you won't be able to take the exam in time and will have to wait until tomorrow. Mu Hongyu thanked him again, turned around and ran in the direction he pointed. The person in charge of the shift today was Elder Wenxi. He sat in his seat as usual, leaning against the back of the chair, bored to death. During this period of time, no one came to take the entrance exam, so there was basically nothing to do here every day. It was very boring. He glanced at the sky. Oh, I can go back in an hour. No one came to take the exam, so he was not very anxious. In fact, the entire Lingxiao College did not take this matter to heart. Lingxiao College was able to stand in the world of divine ruins for tens of thousands of years and withstand storms without collapsing. It would not affect them for a while. At this moment, a young girl walked over. Ho, senior. Is the entrance exam for Lingxiao College held here? Her voice was crisp and clear, which made people feel relaxed. Elder, when she looked up. She was a lively and quick-witted young girl, and her entire body was filled with vitality. Elder Wenxi looked left and right and couldn't help but laugh. Yeah, you want to get into Lingxiao College? Mu Hongyu nodded vigorously. Elder Wenxi's eyes were sharp. He could tell at a glance that Mu Hongyu was definitely not from a first-class family. In fact, it wasn't even third-rate. However, he was magnanimous, polite, and well-mannered. He wasn't any worse than those young masters of aristocratic families. For a young lady to come alone like this, she was quite courageous. Elder Wenxi had a good impression of her and sat up straight. What do you want to test? Mu Hongyu said, warrior. Her physique was special. To be precise, she didn't belong to any of the cultivation categories of warrior, Xian master, celestial physician. However, if one had to talk about it, she was still considered a warrior. After all, she was indeed a stage 9 warrior now. Elder Wenxi nodded. You look young. As long as you reach stage 9, you can enter the school. Mu Hongyu walked over and placed her hand on the black jade. Before she moved, she suddenly thought of something and couldn't help but raise her head and ask, Elder, do you know Chuyu? Digression. I'm going out today, so I'll be doing this for the time being. I'll come back tonight to try to continue reading. September and October Peripheral Activities Winning List. 1. Star of Monthly Votes. None Star of Commentary. Yen Ayosm Leeson 2. QQ Reading Star of Recommendation. Monody, 210 votes. Star of Commentary. Bad. Little Pure Red Sleeve. Mobile user, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1428. You know Chuyu? Elder Wenxi's interest was piqued. Chuyu had entered Lingxiao College for several months, and his identity and background had always been a mystery. Now, everyone only knew that he had a close relationship with Rongxiu, and that they might be brothers, but it had not been personally confirmed, so it was just a guess. It was rare to see someone who knew Chuyu. I'm good friends with her. Mu Hongyu pursed her lips and smiled, her almond eyes sparkling. So that's how it is. What a coincidence, when he came to take the entrance exam, it was also this old man who shut him up. Elder Wenxi stroked his beard and said with a smile. Mu Hongyu's eyes lit up. Really? No wonder when the other party mentioned Chuyu. His tone was very familiar, so there was a layer of fate. Come, give it a try. If you can successfully pass the exam, you can enter the academy and meet him. Elder Wensi originally had a good impression of Mu Hongyu, and now that he heard that she and Chuyu were good friends, his heart naturally became more affectionate. And Mu Hongyu nodded and immediately placed her hand on the black jade stone. She held her breath and focused, her expression serious, carefully mobilizing her force and surging it inside. Buzz. A line of words slowly appeared. 17 years old, early stage, 9th stage. Elder Wensi widened his eyes in surprise and stared at the line of words for a long time. It wasn't until the line of words gradually disappeared that he blinked and looked at Mu Hongyu, his face full of undisguised admiration. You're only 17 years old and you're already a 9th stage warrior? He knew that this little girl should be young, but he didn't expect her to be only 17. Oh right, she should be 17 years old now. This kind of talent, even if placed in the entire Spirit Firmament Academy, would definitely be considered as extremely outstanding. Could it be that the friends around Chuyu were all so powerful? Mu Hongyu retracted her hand and looked at Elder Wensi with anticipation and curiosity. Elder, does this mean that I passed? Haha. Yes, of course. Elder Wensi was stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter. If this was not considered a pass, then many of the students in the Spirit Firmament Academy would be directly chased out. Elder Wensi smiled and sighed inwardly that his luck was really good. There were Chuyu and the others in front, and now there was Mu Hongyu. These were all rare and good seedlings. Especially with so many things happening in the academy recently, it had been more than half a month since any cultivators came to take the entrance examination. It wasn't easy to find one, and he was so outstanding. TSK. This made Elder Wensi, who was originally a little depressed because of the recent events, much better. He immediately took out a black jade token. With a thought, a faint light flashed quickly on it. Then he passed it to Mu Hongyu. Here, from now on, this will be your pass to enter and exit the academy. It is also a symbol of your status in the academy. So simple and straightforward. Mu Hongyu was also very surprised. She took the black jade token with both hands and looked at it carefully for a while, cherishing it very much. She knew that she could enter Lingxiao College, but she didn't expect it to be so straightforward. Touching the slightly cold black jade token, she still felt that it was a little illusory in her heart. She was directly admitted to the #1 academy in the Divine Ruins world. In fact, because of her good relationship with Chu Liyue, Mu Hongyu had always subconsciously compared herself with Chu Liyue. Chu Liyue could be said to be abnormal, and after being with such an abnormal person for a long time, even Mu Hongyu herself became abnormal. Needless to say, her physique, which only appeared once in 1,000 years, was not something that ordinary people could compare to. Therefore, although she was already very outstanding, she almost never had such a clear understanding of herself. This led to a considerable degree of misunderstanding of her own standards. Thank you, Elder. Mu Hongyu touched the black jade token for a while before carefully putting it away. Elder Wensi chuckled and said, "Wait here first. You'll go back with me later." It was not easy for such a student to come, and she was very talented and had potential. Of course, he had to personally bring her into the academy. Mu Hongyu nodded obediently. She took 2 steps to the side and was about to sit down at the seat that Elder Wensi had designated when she suddenly asked curiously, "By the way, Elder, how is Chuyu doing in the academy recently?" Elder Wensi's smile froze. He clenched his fist and coughed. "It's okay. You'll know when you enter the academy." Seeing his reaction, Mu Hongyu felt a little strange. It didn't look like he was doing very well. Could it be that Chuyu got into trouble again? Mu Hongyu asked tentatively. According to her understanding of Chu Liyue, this should be the most likely thing to happen. The corner of Elder Wensi's mouth twitched. Again, looks like that kid used to be like this. Actually, Mu Hongyu's question was not wrong, but it was more troublesome than expected. Elder Wensi sighed with some hesitation. A lot of things have happened in the academy recently. You should have heard a little about it, right? Mu Hongyu nodded. Chuyu is more or less related to these things, but his current situation is rather complicated, so I can't explain it clearly in a few words. It's better for you to go to the academy and ask him personally when you see him. Mu Hongyu was confused, but she could vaguely sense that the situation seemed to be quite unusual. Her originally excited mood calmed down a little. She responded and tactfully did not continue to ask. Lingxiao College, Mount Pengmin. When Elder Bo Yen arrived, the chaos in Mount Pingmin had already returned to normal, and it looked no different from before. However, his brows were still tightly furrowed. Elder Meng. He cupped his fists and bowed politely in the direction of the tower. Even though Elder Bo Yen was now in charge of the academy, he still had to be extremely respectful when he came here. Elder Meng's seniority was much higher than his. A moment later, a low voice sounded faintly. Bo Yen, why are you here this time? Elder Bo Yen asked hesitantly. Previously, I sensed that there seemed to be some strange movements in Mount Pingmin. I wonder, what happened? If it was any other place it would be fine, but this was Mount Pingmin. With Elder Meng in charge, there was still such a commotion which really made him shocked. He even directly threw away the unfinished business in his hands and came directly. Elder Meng's voice sounded as calm as ever. It's just a small matter, I've already dealt with it, don't worry. Elder Bo Yen heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. There's nothing much here, just do what you need to do. Elder Meng said faintly. Elder Bo Yen nodded and was about to turn and leave when he suddenly thought of something and turned back. His expression flashed with some hesitation, and after a while he deliberately lowered his voice and asked, Elder Meng, is everything that the girl left behind? Digression. I only got home when it was almost 9 o'clock and wrote the first chapter. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock prize quiz. What exactly did Lu Yu leave behind in the door of Mount Pingmin? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1429. On the top floor of the tower, Elder Meng was silent for a moment after hearing the question. He looked at the floating door in front of him and said after a while, It's fine. Elder Bo Yen heaved a sigh of relief outside the barrier. With you around there won't be any problems. I'll be going back now. With that, Elder Bo Yen cupped his fists and bowed respectfully before turning to leave. The surroundings returned to normal as if nothing had happened. After a long while, Elder Meng sighed. I wonder when that girl will return. Does she really not want this thing? It's been so long, but she hasn't even sent a letter back. I really don't know what she's busy with. Elder Meng shook his head, but when he thought of the two people downstairs, he couldn't help but shake his head again. Looks like I'll have to ask Xiao when I have time. Maybe I can get some information from him. On the second floor, Chu Liyue was lying on the 1,000-year-cold jade bed. Xiao sat beside her and held her hand. Their fingers were intertwined and a faint golden light flickered. A warm energy flowed into Chu Liyue's body and carefully nourished her body. Her internal organs, including a part of her yuan meridian, were all injured in the previous accident. Although her body's recovery ability was very strong, Xiao still insisted on using his force to heal her internal injuries every once in a while. Now Chu Liyue's situation was much better. Her pale and haggard face had a tinge of red, and her breathing was much more stable than before. Probably because of Xiao's presence, the familiar cold fragrance filled the air and made her feel much more at ease. She didn't fall into a nightmare again and continued to sleep peacefully. When Elder Wenxi brought Mu Hongyu to the academy, it attracted the attention of many people. In the past half a month, no one had come to the academy. Now that one suddenly came, it naturally became the focus of everyone's attention. Because he liked Mu Hongyu very much, Elder Wenxi simply arranged a residence for her personally. I originally planned to arrange for you to live on the same mountain as Chuyu, but because Chuyu has changed places now, I can only try to let you live closer to him. Elder Wenxi and Mu Hongyu stood halfway up the mountain and pointed in a certain direction. This is Tiger Head Mountain. The mountain in the southeast is Mount Jiuheng. That was Xiao's residence, and now Chuyu had also moved there. Your Highness. Mu Hongyu was a little surprised. Elder Wenxi was stunned for a moment before he came back to his senses. Since Mu Hongyu and Chuyu were good friends, it was normal for her to know Xiao. From the way they addressed him, he seemed to be from the Yuntian Tower, or perhaps one of the 28 divisions under it. Yes, ever since Xiao entered the academy he has been living alone there. Chuyu was the first to be allowed to live with him. It had to be said that Xiao treated him extremely well. Even elders like them couldn't get close to Mount Jiuheng at will, only Chuyu could. Didn't this mean anything? Mu Hongyu laughed. Isn't it normal for your highness to treat her well? The two of them had an engagement and they were only short of a formal wedding. With such a relationship, others naturally couldn't compare. Elder Wenxi heard this and was a little curious. Why do you say that? Of course, Mu Hongyu was halfway through her words when she suddenly remembered that Chu Liwei was now using the name of Chu Yu and quickly stopped talking. A pair of almond eyes turned and she smiled slyly. Of course it's because they have a good relationship. Without waiting for Elder Wensi to ask again, she immediately changed the topic. By the way, Elder, since they all live in Mount Juheng, can I go directly to see them? Elder Wensi's face stiffened and he laughed dryly. It's a long story, Master. At this moment a gentle voice sounded. Elder Wensi looked up. Sure, why are you here? Luo Shirshi's figure flashed and she quickly arrived in front of the two of them. She respectfully curtsied to Elder Wensi and then said with a smile, Elder Wensi, Elder Huafeng came to look for you. He heard that you were arranging for the new students, so he went back. He said that he wants you to go to his place when you have time. He has something important to discuss. Elder Wensi snorted softly. What's the matter? Can't you just come over and say it? The older you get, the more troublesome it is. Although he said that, there was still a smile on his face. It was obvious that he was just teasing. Luo Shirshir was already used to the way the two elders interacted, so she didn't care much. She turned her gaze and looked at Mu Hongyu with curiosity in her eyes. This must be the new junior sister, right? She had been here for several months, so she naturally called herself a senior sister. Elder Wensi laughed out loud. That's right. This is Mu Hongyu, a new student that was just recruited today. Hongyu, this is Luo Shirshir, my student. Mu Hongyu smiled. Hello, senior sister. Luo Shirshir looked at the young lady in front of her. Her small face was wheat-colored, but it didn't hide her beauty at all. Especially those round and sparkling almond-shaped eyes. They were lively and cute. She smiled and nodded. Junior sister Hongyu, you're welcome. Since you're in the academy, we're all family. Especially since you were personally assessed by Master, we're all fated. If there's anything you don't understand in the academy in the future, feel free to ask me. Haha. The fate between the two of you is not limited to this. Elder Wensi smiled and stroked his beard. Hongyu, do you know that when Shirshir entered the academy, she participated in the assessment with Chu Yu? Moreover, their relationship is still very good even now. So good that they caused trouble together in Thousand Wine Mountain. But of course she couldn't say that out loud. Hearing that the other party was also Chu Liyue's good friend, Mu Hongyu immediately felt closer. Luo Shirshir found it strange. Why did Elder Wensi say that? Mu Hongyu and Chu Yu seem to know each other? As if reading her mind, Elder Wensi smiled and said, I forgot to mention Shirshir, Hongyu was also Chu Yu's good friend in the past. She said that she wanted to see Chu Yu the moment she came to the academy. Luo Shirshir was stunned. So it's really, Mu Hongyu blinked. Elder, you haven't told me where Chu Yu is now. My father and mother also asked me to say hello to her. In fact, she hadn't been home for a long time, and she hadn't contacted her family when she was in the Red Moon Desert. However, her father and mother had always been grateful to Chu Liwei. Sometimes they were even more concerned about her than her. So there was nothing wrong with saying that. Luo Shirshir was a little surprised. It seems that junior sister Hongyu and Chu Yu are really close. Why would a normal friend make the parents of a young girl so concerned? And from the looks of it, Mu Hongyu and Chu Yu don't seem to be that close. Luo Shirshir suddenly felt an indescribable sense of loss. She pursed her lips and said, Chu Yu is not in Jiuheng Mountain now but Pingmin Mountain. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1430. The corner of Elder Wensi's eyes twitched. Why did this child say it so directly? He thought for a long time but still didn't know how to say it. Pingmin Mountain? What is that place? Mu Hongyu was at a loss. She had just arrived at the academy, so of course, she didn't know what Pingmin Mountain meant. I've already said it, it's better to be honest. Elder Wensi silently persuaded himself in his heart and then explained, this matter has to start from the time when everyone went to the northern border of the Great Desolate Land. Elder Wensi spent about half an hour telling Mu Hongyu the whole story. Actually, this matter had more or less spread outside, so it was fine to say it out loud. He just saw that Mu Hongyu didn't seem to know about it, so he didn't know how to say it. But thinking about it carefully, he had to say it sooner or later anyway, so he might as well say it directly. That's about it. During this period of time, Chu Yu was still locked up in Pingmin Mountain. As for when he would come out, Bo Yen hadn't said yet, so it was hard to be sure. Mu Hongyu's eyes widened slightly and it took her a while to digest these words. After reacting, she quickly asked, "How is Chuyu's body now?" Elder Wensi comforted her. "Don't worry about this, he entered Pingmin Mountain after waking up and seems to have recovered. Logically speaking, nothing should happen to him." Mu Hongyu was still worried. "But didn't you just say that Pingmin Mountain is very dangerous?" This old man thinks you don't have to worry too much. He has already been to Pingmin Mountain twice before and he seems to be fine." Elder Wensi was quite open-minded about this matter. After seeing that kid's ability to cause trouble, he felt that he didn't have to worry so much. In the situation of the northern border of the Great Desolate Land, he was able to snatch the opportunity and directly break through from the 8th stage to the 9th stage. What was there to worry about? Mu Hongyu relaxed a little. That's true. Lu Yu had always been able to turn danger into safety, and this was only a punishment from the academy, so there shouldn't be any problems. Then I'll cultivate well during this period of time and wait for her to come out. Mu Hongyu quickly adjusted her state of mind and smiled. Luo Shishir was dazzled by his brilliant smile and couldn't help but ask, "Hongyu, are you really not worried at all?" During this period of time she had actually not been able to sleep well. In her mind she kept thinking about Chuyu's miserable appearance when he was covered in blood. Plus, there were a lot of people out there waiting to cause trouble for him. It was truly worrisome. However, Mu Hongyu did not seem to have such concerns. "Of course I'm worried." Mu Hongyu nodded and immediately changed the topic. "But I believe in her. Having gone through life and death together in the past, she could always choose to trust Chu Luiyue unconditionally." Luo Shishir was a little absent-minded. "Shishir, bring Hongyu around first. I'll go to Huafeng to take a look." Okay." Luo Shishir came back to her senses and quickly agreed. Elder Wensi was relieved to hand Mu Hongyu over to Luo Shishir and quickly left. Luo Shishir thought for a moment and said, "Let's go to Qingming Square to take a look first. Chuyu hasn't been in the academy for long and he's already on the Azure Cloud roll. I'll tell you in detail when we get there." Mu Hongyu nodded happily and gratefully. "Thank you, senior sister." Luo Shishir smiled. "You're Chuyu's friend, so you're naturally my friend too. Let's go." After saying that, she led her away. "Huafeng, why are you looking for me?" Elder Wensi quickly arrived at Elder Huafeng's place and asked as he walked into the room. No one answered. He looked inside and saw Elder Huafeng sitting behind the desk, staring at something on the table in a daze. "What are you looking at?" Elder Wensi walked over and reached out to take it. Elder Huafeng quickly blocked him. "Hey, don't touch it." Elder Wensi was not angry, but he was even more curious. He leaned forward slightly and looked at the thing. "What kind of treasure is it? Why are you still hiding it?" Elder Huafeng raised his head with a solemn expression. Elder Wensi suddenly felt that something was wrong and his heart skipped a beat. Bang! The door outside was closed by Elder Huafeng. At the same time, a layer of barrier appeared around him. Elder Wensi was even more uneasy. According to his understanding of Elder Huafeng, something must have happened to him for him to act like this. The teasing smile on his face froze slightly. "What's wrong?" Elder Huafeng paused for a moment as if he was very conflicted. After a long while he waved his finger lightly. The thing on the table flew up and floated quietly in the air under his control. It was a square piece of paper. There was only a thin layer, but the texture was extremely good. It even glowed with a faint jade-colored light. It was holy and pure. On it, countless streams of light interweaved, forming an incomparably complicated Xian formation. Elder Wensi stared at it for a while and felt a little dizzy, so he quickly looked away. What kind of Xian formation is this? The pressure is so domineering. Although he was not a Xian master, he had been in the academy for many years and had powerful Xian masters like Elder Huafeng by his side. He had some understanding of Xian formations. He had seen many high-level Xian formations. However, the Xian formation on this was not the most complicated one he had ever seen, but it carried a powerful aura. He only stared at it a few times, but he felt that the biting cold fighting intent and killing intent seemed to want to break through the back of the paper and charge straight at him. Elder Huafeng waved his hand and the piece of paper flew back. He took the paperweight beside him and placed it in the middle. Only then did the shocking fluctuation gradually calm down. "You also noticed the power of this Xian formation?" Elder Huafeng frowned. "But this isn't even a complete Xian formation." "What?" Elder Wensi was shocked. An incomplete Xian formation was already so powerful. If it was complete, it was hard to imagine how shocking it would be. Where did you get this Xian formation? According to his understanding of Elder Huafeng, he shouldn't be able to use such a terrifying Xian formation now, right? Do you still remember that I told you before that after we arrived at the northern border of the primordial desolate land, we encountered several troubles on the way, and one of them was even trapped by a Xian formation? Elder Wensi nodded. Remember. Could this be that? This isn't that Xian formation. Elder Huafeng rubbed his temples and smiled helplessly. Even the current me can't use that Xian formation. This is the Xian formation that Chuyu drew. He only remembers a part of it, so during this period of time, I have been trying to restore that Xian formation. I haven't done it completely yet, only a part of it. But you have seen its power. Elder Wensi knew that they were able to come out at that time because of Chuyu, but he didn't know in detail. So, Elder Huafeng took a deep breath. After a long while he said word by word, "This Xian formation is extremely similar to the Xian formation left behind by the first Dean." Digression. Let's update together at 6 p.m. in the comment section. February had already silently noted it down. When the truth is revealed, the prize will be given out. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1431. The first Dean, who existed in the distant legends, was an unreachable existence even in the eyes of Elder Huafeng and the others. Back then, that person had single-handedly founded Lingxiao College and left behind many of his precious treasures, all of which were stored in the Academy's Secretary Pavilion. Over the past 10,000 years, only the previous Dean and a few elders could enter. Elder Huafeng happened to be one of them. It was precisely because of this that he was fortunate enough to personally see the Xian formation left behind by the first Dean. Unfortunately, the power contained in those Xian formations was too powerful. It was too difficult for Elder Huafeng, who was not strong enough to completely remember them. However, even if he only remembered a portion of them, it was still extremely beneficial to him. Back then, when he was trapped in that huge barrier in the northern region of the Great Desolate Land, he vaguely felt that it was somewhat familiar, but he didn't dare to be sure. After returning, he carefully recalled the Xian formation that Chuyu had described to him that day and repaired it bit by bit. Now he had almost deciphered more than half of this Xian formation. He could finally confirm that this Xian formation was indeed extremely similar to the Xian formation left behind by the Dean. Of course, he didn't dare to be completely sure that this was the same Xian formation. After all, the slightest difference in this kind of thing could lead to a huge difference. However, he was basically certain that this Xian formation was definitely related to the first Dean. Elder Wensi was also shocked when he heard this and couldn't recover for a long time. "Do you know what you're talking about?" Elder Wensi spoke with difficulty. He felt his throat tighten and dry. His first reaction was that it was impossible, but his rationality told him that nothing was impossible. Although Elder Huafeng always liked to joke, he was absolutely serious when it came to such matters. He was even certain that Elder Huafeng must have compared it repeatedly and basically confirmed the situation before finding him. Elder Huafeng laughed bitterly. "I don't know what to say now. Perhaps I should tell Bo Yen about this matter." Elder Wensi was silent for a moment. "Don't be so anxious. Recently, there have been a lot of things in the academy that he has to deal with. He must be quite busy. Why don't we discuss it first? You said that Chuyu told you about the Xian formation? Although he is talented as a Xian master, he shouldn't have any understanding of such a profound and complicated Xian formation, right?" Elder Huafeng calmed down for a while before he recounted what had happened that day in detail. The room was silent. After a long time, Elder Wensi asked, "In that case, this profound formation was only seen by Chuyu by accident?" Elder Huafeng nodded and said, "That's what he said, but we don't know if it's true or not." This was a matter of great importance, so he had no choice but to maintain a skeptical attitude towards everything. "In my opinion, this profound formation is most likely related to the first principle. As for whether Chuyu knows about this matter, we will have to ask him again." Elder Wensi's eyes fell on that piece of paper again. This kind of paper was specially used by Xian masters to inscribe high-grade Xian formations. It was extremely precious, but it could clearly depict the Xian formation, so it was loved by Xian masters. It was overflowing with light and vibrant colors, looking extremely gorgeous. However, who would have thought that the profound formation above actually hid such a huge mystery? Actually, I think that Chuyu probably doesn't know. If he knew, why would he tell you about the profound formation so straightforwardly? Elder Wenxi said hesitantly. Elder Huafeng was non-committal. Since things have already come to this, we have to solve it. You're right, Bo Yan has indeed been quite tired recently. Let's wait until Chuyu comes out of Pingmin Mountain and everyone gets together before we talk about this matter. In the past few days he had been feeling uneasy because of this matter. In the end he had no choice but to call Elder Wenxi over to discuss it together. At this moment, after confirming his train of thought, he could finally calm down a little. Elder Wenxi also nodded. This matter involves a lot of things. Before we have conclusive evidence, we must keep a low profile. I know. Chu Liyue slept for 2 days and 2 nights before she finally woke up slowly. She opened her eyes with difficulty and felt a blur. Someone leaned over. Before she could see the other party's face clearly, a familiar cold fragrance assailed her nose. It was the smell that made her sleep peacefully during this period of time. Her originally fluttering heart suddenly calmed down. Rongxiu. The vision in front of her became clearer. With the help of Rongxiu, she sat up and looked around. It was empty and there was a jade bed under her. This is the second floor of Pingmin Mountain. Rongxiu explained. Previously, when you tried to break through to the middle of the 9th level, you encountered an accident and fainted. You have been recuperating here for the past 2 days. In a few words, Rongxiu explained the matter to her clearly. Chu Liyue rubbed her temples and felt sore all over. Suddenly, her movements froze and she wanted to get off the bed. Father. But because she had been lying down for 2 whole days, when she suddenly got up, her vision turned black, her legs went soft and she almost fell to the ground. Rongxiu picked her up by the waist and frowned. Your body hasn't fully recovered yet, so you can't run around for the time being. For the past 2 days he had been using his force to nourish her body, and it was not easy for her to recover 50 to 60%. But she still needed to recuperate well in order to completely recover. After all, failing to break through was not a small matter, not to mention trying to break through to the middle of the 9th level. Only her physique was strong enough to withstand the impact at that time. If it was someone else, the situation would be even more serious, and it was very likely that they would not be able to continue cultivating. Chu Liyue was full of anxiety and grabbed Rongxiu's sleeve tightly. But father is in danger now. If something really happened to him, Chu Liyue would definitely not be able to forgive herself. For such a long time she had always wanted to save her father, but she was always delayed by things like this and that, so it had been delayed until now. But in fact, as long as she wanted to, she could go. Rongxiu held her wrist. If you go now, where are you going? Do you know where he is now? This sentence was like a basin of cold water, instantly calming Chu Liyue down. She closed her eyes and the strength in her body seemed to have been sucked out in an instant. That's right. She only knew that her father should be in the world of God, but she did not know where exactly he was. The only thing that could be connected to her father was broken, which was equivalent to breaking the last bit of connection. How difficult would it be to find him again? Rongxiu held her in his arms and gently patted her back. He lowered his voice with tolerance and gentleness. Don't worry, I've already sent people to secretly investigate. There should be news soon. Chu Liyue rested her forehead on his shoulder and nodded gently. Rongxiu, Elder Meng had just walked down the stairs and was about to say something when he saw this scene, and his voice came to an abrupt stop. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1432. At this moment the air seemed to have frozen. The surroundings were silent, and even the breathing had become earth-shattering. The space seemed to have begun to shrink silently, squeezing towards the center, suffocating everyone. Elder Meng was dumbfounded. Even though he had been in the Divine Ruins world for many years and had seen countless storms, he was still shocked when he saw this scene. Rongxiu and Chuyu were hugging each other. More importantly, it was not an ordinary hug. This natural intimacy, no matter how he looked at it, didn't seem right. Even if they were biological brothers, it shouldn't be like this. Although Elder Meng didn't say anything, his heart was already in turmoil. In comparison, Rongxiu was calmer. After hearing Elder Meng's voice, a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes, but it quickly disappeared and returned to normal. Elder Meng was stronger than him, and his attention was all on Chu Liyue just now, so he didn't notice Elder Meng's arrival. But so what? Rong Xiu gently patted Chu Liyue's shoulder again. Be good, go back and have a good rest. Chu Liyue originally wanted to ask a few more questions about her father, but in this situation no matter what she couldn't. She nodded, withdrew from Rong Xiu's arms and turned to look at Elder Meng. Thank you for taking me in, Elder Meng. Although Rong Xiu didn't go into detail, she knew that it must be thanks to Elder Meng that she and Rong Xiu could stay here. Not to mention other things, she really felt much more comfortable here than outside, and it was more convenient for her body to recuperate. He had to thank him no matter what. But how could Elder Meng listen to her now? He nodded slowly and stiffly. Oh no, it's nothing. Your body is injured, rest first. Even when he spoke he seemed to have no soul. Chu Liyue obediently returned to the jade bed to lie down. Rong Xiu put one hand behind his back and said indifferently. She just woke up. I was about to go and tell you. Elder Meng's mouth twitched. Tell him about it. He did not see Rong Xiu's intention at all. It's good that you're awake. Elder Meng took a deep breath and swallowed his words with great difficulty. This old man also has something to discuss with you. Follow me. Rong Xiu gently nodded. Yes. Meng Lao turned around and went up 2 flights of stairs. He couldn't help but turn his gaze to Chu Liyue and their eyes met. Chu Liyue blinked. Elder Meng, is there anything else? Oh no. For a moment, Elder Meng had an inexplicable feeling. He quickly withdrew his gaze and quickly went upstairs. His figure quickly disappeared up the stairs. Rong Xiu and Chu Liyue looked at each other and smiled. I'll be right back. Chu Liyue nodded. After Rong Xiu left, Chu Liyue was the only one left on the 2nd floor. Originally she wanted to rest for a while more, but her heart was worried about her father, and her heart was unable to calm down. After thinking for a while she took out the doctor's book that Elder Wanzheng had left behind and started reading. After returning from the primeval north she had broken through to the 9th stage. Moreover, the black pyramid in her body had a long crack, and it was just a hair's breadth away from breaking completely. She recalled many things, including many high-level Xian formations and prescriptions. Now that she could not use her force, she could only look at the medical books. After those memories came back, it was as if she had learned them without a teacher. She naturally grasped those things, especially the prescriptions. Although they were extremely complicated, she could recite them backwards. Chu Liyue vaguely felt that she seemed to have reached the threshold of breaking through to the doctor's realm. However, after her previous failure she became more cautious. Rong Xiu followed Elder Meng up to the top floor. Ordinary people were not qualified to enter this place, and Rong Xiu was an exception. On one hand, Elder Meng, who had been violently stimulated, had lost his mind. Other than here he could not think of any other place to have a good chat with Rong Xiu. On the other hand, Rong Xiu had been here before. After reaching the top floor, Elder Meng raised his hand to seal the barrier, and then sat down in his usual seat. After Rong Xiu followed him, he saw the door floating in the middle. He narrowed his eyes and a dark light flashed in his eyes. He quietly retracted his gaze and stood 5 steps away from Elder Meng. Elder Meng, you said you have something to discuss. What is it? Elder Meng had one hand on his head. When he heard this, he could not help but look up and look at him with a strange expression. You really don't know what this old man wants to ask? Rong Xiu said calmly, please enlighten me, Elder Meng. Humph. However, Elder Meng didn't fall for his trick and snorted fiercely. First, tell me what happened between you and Chu Yu. If he could not figure it out, he would not be able to sit still. Hearing this, Rong Xiu smiled slightly. Didn't you see it just now? She just woke up and said she wanted to go out. She got up in a hurry and almost fell, so I went over to help her. Elder Meng was skeptical. He did not see the first part. He only saw the last part. What's more, was that supposed to be helping him? The two of them were clearly hugging each other. He had known Rong Xiu for several years. According to his understanding of Rong Xiu, he would never do such a thing. Unless, in Rong Xiu's heart, that person's status was extraordinary. But looking at Rong Xiu, it was obvious that he would not say anything more. That was true. He was handsome and had outstanding talent. When he smiled, he was indeed very likable. But he was a real young man. Didn't Rong Xiu already have a princess? What was he thinking? The two of them fell into a silent confrontation. After a while, Elder Meng's eyes inadvertently swept across the door. His expression suddenly relaxed and tiredness appeared in his eyes. With a sweep of his horsetail whisk, he rubbed his eyebrows. Rongxiu, now that you are married, you should know your limits. Rongxiu raised his eyebrows slightly. These words. I heard from Bo Yen that your princess was chosen by you and you seem to be very satisfied with her. You should like her, right? Rongxiu's expression became more subtle. He nodded. Of course. Elder Meng hesitated for a while before he said with difficulty, I know that the girl left and did not return and hurt your heart. After that, you went to look for her personally, but you went through several life and death situations and came back with a body full of injuries. But that is all in the past. Now that you have a princess, you should treat her well and not. He sighed. Some words should not be said by him. But if he did not say it, no one would care about Rongxiu's matter. So, even if Rongxiu did not like to hear it, he still had to say it. Thinking of this, Elder Meng's expression became more serious. He said, that brat Chuyu is indeed somewhat similar to that girl. However, if you treat him as a substitute for that girl, it's unfair to both of them. Rongxiu's eyelids twitched violently. Digression, I won't keep you waiting today. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. mobile users, please browse and read for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1433. What's going on? Rongxiu rubbed his eyebrows helplessly. Elder Meng, you worry too much. Those two were obviously the same person. Besides, he couldn't do such a thing. The relationship between Chuyu and I can't be explained in a few words. But don't worry, it's not what you think. Elder Meng looked at his expression and was a little shaken. Really? Rongxiu withdrew his hand and raised his thin lips with a faint smile. Do you think Chuyu will accept it if I really do that? Of course not. That boy looked clean and handsome and always had a smile on his face. But in fact, he wasn't someone who could be easily manipulated. Otherwise, how could he have caused so much trouble? Seeing Rongxiu's personal guarantee, Elder Meng was relieved. There was no need for Rongxiu to lie about this kind of thing. But the relationship between the two was really strange. He had to ask about it when he had the chance in the future. Hey, let's not talk about this first. You know what you're doing. Elder Meng stopped this topic and flicked his horsetail whisk. His gaze shifted slightly as it went over Rongxiu's shoulder and landed on the floating door. I called you here for a more important thing. Go and see if there's anything wrong with this door. That was why he went down just now. Rongxiu turned around and raised his eyebrows. Actually, I've been wanting to ask you before. When did you move this door up? Elder Meng narrowed his eyes. About 10 days ago, I think. At that time, I felt that there was something wrong with the fluctuation of the door, so I moved it up alone. After a period of observation, I found that there was something wrong with it, but I'm not sure, so I asked you to come and take a look. Rongxiu stared at the door for a few seconds and suddenly smiled. You've been guarding this door for several years. No one else knows it better than you, right? If you think there's something wrong with it, then it must be. Elder Meng still felt a little uneasy. The situation is a little complicated this time. Take a look first. Seeing that Elder Meng was so insistent, Rongxiu did not decline. He took a few steps forward and stopped in front of the door. He raised his hand and slowly placed his palm on the door. It was slightly cold to the touch, and a faint chill drilled into the bottom of his heart from his palm. However, there was also a hint of heat in his eyes. That wave of heat was very ethereal. It passed by in a flash and was almost impossible to distinguish. It was as if something was restless and wanted to rush out, but at the moment it was about to come out, it turned back. Rongxiu withdrew his hand, his expression calm. How is it? Old Meng leaned forward and asked anxiously. At first he did not want to involve Rongxiu in this matter. But now that Rongxiu was here and he felt that there was something wrong with this door, he decided to ask for Rongxiu's opinion. Rongxiu pondered for a moment and looked at Elder Meng. What do you think? Elder Meng frowned, his expression grave. I think that thing seems to be waking up. When he first sensed the fluctuation, he might be able to convince himself that it was a misunderstanding. But after the second and third times, it was still the same and the movement was getting bigger and bigger. This made him vigilant. Rongxiu smiled. Since you have already made a decision, why ask me again? But this is not right. Elder Meng finally could not hold back. He quickly stepped forward, flicked the horsetail whisk in his hand and pointed at the door. That girl is still nowhere to be found, not even a shadow. How can this thing make such a movement? Or does this mean that she is coming back soon? Speaking of the second half of the sentence, Elder Meng's expression was uncertain, but there was a faint trace of joy in his eyes. Thinking that Xiu was still standing here, he quickly restrained himself. Many people knew that Xiu liked that girl, but now they basically did not mention it. A few years had passed and everything had changed. Xiu already had a princess. Moreover, that girl seemed to be even more unsuitable. However, Xiu's expression was normal, as if he did not care about this. He thought seriously for a moment, then nodded thoughtfully. It's not impossible. Indeed. She was coming back soon. You think so too? Elder Meng was relieved when he heard this. Previously he was worried that this meant that something had happened to that girl, but now that Xiu said that it meant that she was coming back, his uneasiness and worry were reduced. Xiu's eyes moved slightly and he glanced at the door from the corner of his eyes. If she had not failed to break through 2 days ago, you don't have to worry, everything should be fine. Xiu added. Elder Meng breathed a sigh of relief. Then, I'll wait for her to come back. Seeing that Xiu seemed to have really let go of the past, Elder Meng finally let go of the last worry in his heart. There's nothing else. Take good care of Chuyu. Xiu nodded. Then Xiu won't disturb you any longer. With that he cupped his hands and turned to leave. Elder Meng looked at his back and sighed in his heart. Sigh, back then, what a perfect pair of golden boy and jade girl. Now it had turned out like this, forget it. Xiu had already stopped thinking about it, so why should they join in the fun? Elder Meng's hands slowly brushed the door. The exquisite relief sculpture was uneven, leaving a smooth and warm touch in his palm. This girl, her heart is really big. Yuntian Tower. Wanzhong Mountain. The sun was setting and the last warm orange afterglow dyed the clouds in the sky with a faint layer of gold. After kneeling for an entire day, Jiang Jiwan finally relaxed her body and rubbed her sore and numb knees. Although she had been here for a few days, she was still not used to such intense punishment. Anyone who maintained the same kneeling posture from morning to night for 12 hours would not be able to endure it. But she had to endure it even if she could not. Who asked this to be her only way out now? Jiang Jiwan looked up. The mountaintop was peaceful. She did not know when the clan leader would come out of seclusion. She could not help but think about it resentfully. But after thinking about it, she felt a little hopeless. The clan leader had already been in seclusion for a few years, and there were no signs of him coming out. Now she did not know how long she had to wait. Crack. A crisp shattering sound was suddenly heard. Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat. She hurriedly looked over. An inch-long crack had actually appeared in the center of the gigantic Xian formation at the center of the mountain peak. A weak and pure light shone from within. This was, Jiang Jiwan's eyes suddenly lit up and a bold guess appeared in her mind. Crack. At the side, another crack appeared. As if some mechanism had been activated, the entire Xian formation started to move. Those cracks followed the lines of the Xian formation and appeared one by one. Not long after, a brilliant light shone from below and enveloped the entire mountaintop. A vast and majestic aura spread out from within. Sensing the pressure, Jiang Jiwan was not frightened at all. Instead, she was ecstatic. The clan leader was coming out of seclusion. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1434. Boom. A loud sound suddenly came from the sky. It was deafening. The sky, which had been clear just now, quickly darkened. Dark clouds gathered and the wind howled. Jiang Jiwan looked up and was even more certain of her guess. Must be. The clan leader must be coming out of seclusion. And looking at the situation, he was obviously going to break through. This commotion quickly attracted the attention of other people in the Yuntian Tower. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In just a few moments, several figures had already gathered around. Among them were the black-armored guards in charge of guarding the Myriad Bell Mountain and some respected elders. Even 36 respected Elder Ming and the others had already heard the news and quickly gathered over. Everyone looked at the center of the commotion, the Myriad Bell Mountain. In the dark sky, only the Myriad Bell Mountain was bright and dazzling. This is the clan leader coming out of seclusion? Someone in the crowd could not hide his shock and muttered. The voice was very soft and low. Which one of those who appeared here was not a top expert? This sentence clearly fell into everyone's ears. In fact, this was also what they were thinking. The Myriad Bell Mountain was the place that the clan leader had specially chosen for his seclusion. It had been very quiet for the past few years and did not cause any commotion. Now the Xian formation at the top of the mountain had been activated. Everything was open and the energy of heaven and earth was violent. The answer? There was only one. Rumble. Numerous silver lightning bolts swam crazily in the black clouds. The aura was shocking. Jiang Ziyuan's hair and clothes were fluttering in the wind, looking extremely messy. That terrifying aura descended from the sky and instantly enveloped the entire Myriad Bell Mountain. Intense pain rolled through her body. Her face turned pale and she spat out a mouthful of blood. She almost rolled down from the top of the mountain. She hurriedly grabbed a rock beside her and firmly nailed herself to the ground. She could not leave. She could not retreat. The more it was like this, the more she had to persevere until the end. When the clan leader came out, he had to see her first. With this belief, Jiang Jiwan's originally weak body exploded with great potential. Her face was hurting from the wind, and her body didn't seem to belong to her anymore. She was in so much pain that she felt numb. Only his hands were still tightly hugging the rock, refusing to let go. In the next instant, the huge Xian formation suddenly split open from the middle. Clang! The entire Myriad Bell Mountain trembled violently. A figure suddenly rushed out from below. Almost at the same time, countless Tianlei slashed down from the sky. Boom! Boom! Myriad Bell Mountain was like a sea of thunder. A terrifying, restless energy spread out in all directions. Bang! The barrier outside 10,000 Bell Mountain shattered with a loud bang. 36 respected Elder Ming's expression froze and his sleeves fluttered. Silver satin lock. A long silver satin flew out and expanded with the wind. In the blink of an eye, it wrapped around the waist of the Myriad Bell Mountain. When the violent energy collided with the silver satin lock, it was as if it was absorbed and quickly dissipated. Jiang Jiwan. Out. 36 revered Elder Ming loudly shouted. One end of the silver-colored satin flew up with the wind and arrived not far behind Jiang Ziyuan. As long as she turned around and jumped onto the silver satin lock, she would be able to escape successfully. However, Jiang Jiwan acted as if she didn't hear anything. She knelt on the ground and lowered her body, hugging the mountain rock tightly. 36 respected Elder Ming frowned. Immediately he let out a cold laugh. Jiang Jiwan was still thinking about this at this time. It was really hard on her. Boom! A silver lightning struck towards Jiang Jiwan at an extremely fast speed. She sensed the danger and finally raised her head to take a look. Hide? Of course not. Jiang Jiwan gritted her teeth and resolutely chose to face it head-on. She pulled out a sword, tipped her toes and rushed towards the Tianlei. Crack! The moment the sword in her hand touched the Tianlei, it broke with a loud bang. Jiang Jiwan's heart trembled fiercely, and the thought of escaping instantly appeared in her mind. However, just as the Tianlei was about to strike her head, a boundary suddenly appeared in front of her. At the same time, a powerful force came from the side, supporting her waist and slowly putting her down. Jiang Jiwan's feet touched the ground and her legs were weak. However, she still turned her head to look at the first moment. She was pleasantly surprised and hot tears filled her eyes. Clan leader. A figure with a slightly stooped figure walked out from the endless light with a terrifying aura. He walked up and walked in the air. Everywhere he passed, the energy around him froze and dissipated. The heavenly lightning wandered around his body, but quickly disappeared under his skin. It was as if he had swallowed it all. Finally, his footsteps paused and he stopped. He raised his hand and the last flickering lightning shattered in his palm and was annihilated. The energy between heaven and earth that was originally restless and chaotic seemed to have frozen at this moment. This scene caused the hearts and minds of everyone present to tremble. At this moment, they were finally able to see the true appearance of this old man. He was wearing a navy blue robe and his figure was not considered tall. His face was old and ordinary and his hair was silver white. He looked no different from an ordinary old man. Except for his eyes. They were old, calm and unfathomable. When he looked over, it was as if the stars were disappearing and the sun and moon were reincarnating. It was as if there was a vast universe in those eyes. Everyone around him fell silent. Bailey June looked around and the wrinkles on his cheeks seemed to have deepened. Wherever his gaze landed, everyone involuntarily felt reverence and lowered their heads. In a daze, they actually had the feeling of kneeling down and submitting to him. Many people were secretly shocked. The clan leader had been in seclusion for a few years and he really broke through again. Now this pressure really made people. I really haven't come out for a long time, Bailey June sighed softly. His voice was deep and weathered but no emotions could be heard. Congratulations, clan leader, for coming out of seclusion. Suddenly, an excited voice that could not be concealed came from the quiet crowd. 36 respected Elder Ming glanced to the side. When Jiang Jiwan was in danger he did not come out. Now that the clan leader had come out of seclusion, his reaction was very fast. Of course it was hard to say whether it was intentional or not. Respected Elder Yu Jing's expression was excited, and his old face was flushed red. Clan leader, you've finally come out. These few years we've missed you so much. In these few years Zhou Xian had been bold and decisive, vicious and merciless, and had completely taken control of the entire Yuntian Tower. If the clan leader still did not come out, Zhou Xian would have dealt with them together. Respected Elder Yu Jing's words reminded everyone. Immediately, everyone bowed in unison. Congratulations on coming out of seclusion, clan leader. Bailey June smiled slightly, but probably because he had been in seclusion for a long time, his smile seemed a little stiff and there was a strong sense of distance. No need to be so polite. As he spoke his figure moved and he walked to Jiang Jiwan's side. His expression became much gentler and it was full of love. Child, why don't you know how to hide? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1435. With so many people rushing over, the first person Bailey June saw and asked about was Jiang Jiwan. However, everyone was only stunned for a moment. They exchanged tacit glances and quickly accepted the situation. It was like this in the past anyway. There was nothing strange about it. There were so many people in Yuntian Tower, and there was no lack of outstanding people among the younger generation. However, none of them could compare to Jiang Jiwan. He had personally raised her by his side, so she was naturally different from others. Jiang Ziyuan's tears, which she had been holding back for a long time, fell down like they were free. She was so happy that she felt wronged. She was really pitiful. If not for the messy wounds and bloodstains on her face, she would have looked even more pitiful. However, when Bailey June saw this, not only did he not despise her, but he felt even more distressed. What's wrong? Yuanyuan? Why are you crying? He took another step forward and gently patted Jiang Jiwan's head. Look, isn't Grandpa coming out in one piece? In the entire Yuntian Tower, Jiang Jiwan was the only one who could call him Grandpa. Grandpa Chun. Jiang Jiwan hurriedly wiped her tears, but she cried even harder. I've made a fool of myself in front of you. What nonsense are you talking about? Bailey June's heart ached when he saw this. He could not help but frown. He did not notice it before, but when he got closer he realized that Jiang Jiwan's condition was really terrible. Her breathing was disordered, her body was covered in bruises and her face was haggard. There were also shocking bloodstains on her body and face. This was definitely not because of the Tianlei power just now. As soon as he came out, he noticed that Jiang Jiwan was nearby and had been carefully watching over her. Logically speaking, she would at most be a little frightened. How could she possibly be so seriously injured? What happened to you? Bailey June's expression became serious. Did someone bully you? Jiang Ziyuan pursed her lips, wanting to say something but hesitating. No. But from Bailey Chun's point of view, it was clear that he was being bullied. Bailey Chun consoled her with a few words. Don't worry, with Grandpa here, I definitely won't let you suffer the slightest grievance. After he finished speaking, he looked at respected elders Ming and the others. He suppressed the anger in his heart and asked, what the hell is going on? Why was Jiang Jiwan at 10,000 Bao Mountain? How did the injuries on his body come about? In his impression, the little girl was always lively and elegant, dignified and generous. When had she ever been in such a sorry state? 36 respected Elder Ming sneered in his heart. The patriarch of the Yuntian Tower was also a weirdo. He had never married in his entire life and had no descendants. His personality was arrogant and stubborn. The Yuntian Tower had always been under the control of the Bailey clan. The Bailey clan master's clan was huge and there were many branches under him. Who knew how many good seedlings there were? However, Bailey June's attitude towards them was always cold and strict. He only doted on Jiang Jiwan. When Jiang Jiwan came to the Yuntian Tower for the first time when she was a few years old, Bailey June took a liking to her and kept her. He personally taught her. He treated her as if she was his own granddaughter. Although Jiang Jiwan's background was slightly lower than the children of the Yuntian Tower, because of Bailey June's care, her treatment was comparable to that of the eldest daughter of the Yuntian Tower's first wife. And Jiang Jiwan herself had long been used to this feeling. She had always treated the Yuntian Tower as her home. She was not a member of the Bailey clan, but becoming a princess consort was excellent. Especially when she first saw Rong Xiu being brought back, she fell in love with that cold and arrogant young man. She had always thought that everything was rightfully hers. Therefore, when another woman appeared and took over the position of princess consort, snatching away everything that should have belonged to her, she became hysterical and full of resentment. It's a long story, 36 respected Elder Ming said calmly. Clan Master, let's head to the ethereal hall. Let's talk about it together. As soon as Jiang Jiwan walked into the hall, she immediately kneeled on the floor. Her eyes reddened once more. Yuan, what are you doing? Get up. Bailey June, who had just taken his seat, felt his heart ache when he saw this scene. All these years, Jiang Jiwan had never kneeled to anyone in the Yuntian Tower. How did it end up like this? However, Jiang Jiwan refused to get up. Instead she cried, Grandpa Chun, Yuan is in the wrong. Please punish her. Seeing this, Bailey Chun could only suppress his emotions and ask anxiously, what's wrong? Jiang Jiwan looked up. In the surroundings, 36 respected Elder Ming, respected Elder Yu Jing, and the others were all gathered here, sitting on two sides. It wasn't convenient for her to say many things in front of these people. She could only say what she could say. Jiang Jiwan's mind raced, and her expression became more and more sorrowful. Grandpa Chun, Yuan did something wrong and angered my master. He doesn't want me anymore. Bailey June was stunned. 36 respected Elder Ming kindly explained, she was expelled from Lingshao College. The college didn't announce the reason, but this matter has already caused a huge commotion. The entire Divine Ruins world knows about it. She had utterly embarrassed herself. Jiang Jiwan clenched her fists in her sleeves, and her nails dug into her palms. She wanted to defend herself, but she couldn't say anything. He had no choice but to swallow his resentment. Bailey June frowned deeply and he didn't say anything for a long time. He didn't expect this to happen. No matter how much he doted on Jiang Jiwan, he had to admit that this matter was a huge stain on both her and the Yuntian Tower. After a long while he took a deep breath and asked in a low voice, your injuries, they were left behind when I went to the northern region of the primeval world. Jiang Jiwan lowered her head as she spoke. They're much better now. Grandpa Chun, you don't have to worry. Much better? Didn't that mean that her injuries were more serious before? Seeing her compromise, Bailey Chun's suspicions about her being expelled from the Spirit Firmament Academy disappeared like smoke in thin air. He had personally raised Yuan and she had always been a good child. Moreover, didn't the elders of the college like her very much? There must be some misunderstanding. At the thought of this, Bailey Chun looked around. Where's Rong Xiu? It's been so long. Why isn't he here yet? Even if he was the Holy Sun now, he shouldn't be so negligent. Jiang Jiwan wiped her tears and said timidly, Brother Rong Xiu should still be in the college. It's normal that he can't come for a while. Don't be angry with him. She paused and lowered her eyes again. I don't know why Sister Princess Consort hasn't come yet. She should have come since you came out of seclusion. Princess Consort? What Princess Consort? Bailey June was confused. Jiang Jiwan smiled bitterly. Yes, you don't know. Brother Rong Xiu. He has already chosen a princess consort, and now he's living in the sacrificial god hall. Bang. Bailey June was furious. He slammed the table and rose to his feet. How dare he? Jiang Jiwan had already been chosen as the princess consort, but now Rong Xiu was replaced by someone else. What was he trying to do? Princess consort. How majestic. Guards. Call that woman over. Digression. I'll continue at 6 o'clock. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Iowa. Chapter 1436. 36 respected Elder Ming said casually. Patriarch, the princess is currently cultivating in seclusion in the sacrificial god temple. I'm afraid it's not good to rashly invite her, right? What if it delays her cultivation? This sentence made the servant who was about to rush out stop in his tracks. He stood in place and paced back and forth. On one side was the patriarch and on the other side was the leader of the elders. Who should he listen to? Normally speaking, he should listen to the patriarch. However, the patriarch had been in seclusion for the past few years and had never come out. Many things were handled by His Highness the Holy Sun and 36 respected Elder Ming. Now that His Highness the Holy Sun was not around, 36 respected Elder Ming represented this force. Even the patriarch had to be courteous. When Bailey Jun saw the scene, he was so angry that he laughed. How many years had it been? It turned out that the Yuntian Tower had already changed. What, don't you understand this patriarch's words? Bailey Jun said gloomily and sternly. The two words patriarch in the middle were heavily emphasized. The servant's face turned pale and his body trembled. Just as he was about to leave, he was stopped by 36 respected Elder Ming. His Highness the Holy Sun has already ordered that without permission, no one is allowed to approach the sacrificial god temple and disturb the princess. What, have you all forgotten His Highness's orders? When 36 respected Elder Ming spoke, he did not look at Bailey Jun. His eyes were filled with deterrence. He only swept his gaze across the servants, which was enough to make them tremble with fear. At the same time, he also struck back at Bailey Jun from the side. The patriarch's identity was noble and unparalleled, but don't forget who was in charge of the Yuntian Tower now. Moreover, the sacrificial god temple had always been the Holy Sun's territory. Even if the patriarch wanted to interfere, he had to think twice. This subordinate does not dare. When the servants who were ready to make a move heard the words Holy Sun, they were filled with reverence and fear. They all retreated and stood in their positions obediently. Bailey Jun was stunned for a moment. What was this situation? He was the patriarch and had commanded the Yuntian Tower for several years. Now he could not even order a person to move. 36 respected Elder Ming touched the teacup and felt a little bored. Things have changed with the passage of time. Do you still think that I'm the number one person who means what I say in the past? If that was the case, then wouldn't they and His Highness have been working for nothing these past few years? The hall fell into a dead silence. Jiang Jiwon didn't expect this either. She originally thought that after the clan leader came out, he would be able to support her and help her repay the humiliation she had suffered. But now it seemed that this was not the case. Yuntian Tower. His master had already changed. Even Honorable Elder Yu Jing and the others had a hesitant look on their faces and did not say anything. It was unknown whether it was because he didn't want to offend 36 revered Elder Ming or because he didn't want His Highness, the Saint, to settle scores with him in the future. Only then did Ming 36 raise his head in satisfaction and smile warmly. Clan leader, actually, Princess Consort has always been dignified and sensible, and her etiquette is thorough. The reason why she didn't make it in time today must be because she was still concentrating on her cultivation. Otherwise, if she knew that you'd come out of your closed-door cultivation, she would definitely have come to welcome you. Why wouldn't she come? All the important people of Yuntian Tower are here, but she's the only one who didn't come. Who would be so stupid as to cause trouble for herself? There must be a reason. Bailey Jun sneered disdainfully. Closed-door cultivation? Cultivation? Could it be that she's a peerless genius and can't even waste this little bit of time? There was no lack of sarcasm in his words. 36 respected Elder Ming laughed out loud and his expression was bright. Clan leader is wise. How do you know that our princess consort is a peerless genius? Back then, when the Wuji divine dial tested her bloodline power, it reached the same level as His Highness, 11. The smile on Bailey Jun's face suddenly froze. 11. The Wuji divine dial tested her bloodline power? That's right. Since she's the princess consort, she must pass this test. How could it be so high? For a moment, countless thoughts flashed through Bailey Jun's mind. The expression that was originally full of sarcasm and ridicule seemed to have frozen. Is this true? That woman, what is her background? The result of the test is really 11? One had to know that in a huge family system like the Yuntian Tower, there was only one 11 genius like Rong Xiao in 1,000 years. How could this woman who suddenly appeared so coincidentally be 11 as well? Jiang Jiwon's voice lowered as she clenched her fists. Sister Princess Consort tested it in front of everyone. The Wuji divine dial did indeed appear as 11. Although she's an outsider, such talent is still something that we can't. Wait. Bailey Jun suddenly interrupted her, almost in disbelief. Outsider? You mean she's an outsider? How can this be? Bailey June was about to go crazy. Rongxiu is really messing around. The Yuntian Tower was a first-rate family in the Divine Ruins world. To be able to sit on the position of princess consort, even if they didn't completely match, they should at least have a good background, right? In the end, she was actually an outsider. Isn't this a complete disgrace to me, Yun Tianke? No way. I will never agree to this. 36 respected elder Ming dug his ears. He wasn't so angry and even wanted to laugh. Clan leader, are you serious? This princess consort has talent that doesn't lose to His Highness. In the future, her future will be limitless. If this news spreads, who knows how many families and clans will be envious. Why is it embarrassing when it comes to you? Bailey June was speechless for a moment and his expression changed. This was indeed something that couldn't be refuted. On the other hand, Jiang Zhuan, 36 respected elder Ming raised his chin and snorted. She was expelled from Lingxiao College pursued by the Liang family. She caused a lot of trouble and in the end we have to clean up the mess. This is embarrassing, right? After so many years, this was the first time that someone from the Yuntian Tower was publicly expelled from Lingxiao College. Bailey June's heart choked. Do you know that because we allowed her to return to the Yuntian Tower and covered up for her, our Yuntian Tower's reputation plummeted? Clan leader, do you want to hear how the people outside are ridiculing us? Bailey June was so angry that his face turned green. Enough. Jiang Jiwon sobbed softly. It's all my fault. Bailey June sat back down in frustration. That so-called princess consort, why did she have to be such a top-notch genius? So much so that he didn't even have a reason to find trouble with her. In the world of God at any time, one's own strength was the best defense. Also, Jiang Jiwon, if I remember correctly, the princess consort is only 17 years old this year. She's younger than you by a few years. This old man thinks that you don't have to continue calling her sister anymore, right? 36 respected elder Ming reminded in a leisurely manner. Jiang Jiwon felt as if she had been ruthlessly slapped a few times. She didn't even have the mood to cry anymore. She just wanted to disappear from this place immediately. She didn't understand. The clan leader had already come out of seclusion. Logically speaking, it was her turn to make a comeback, but why? Why was everything wrong? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1437. Jiang Jiwon still did not understand. Yuntian Tower had undergone earth-shaking changes in the past few years. Rongxiu held great power and was highly respected. Even though the clan leader had come out of seclusion, he was no longer as powerful as before. Now Rongxiu was the top person here with the most authority. Shangguan Yu was the princess consort that he had personally chosen. Even if these people did not respect him, they had to respect him, right? Not to mention Shangguan Yu's talent was amazing. Only someone with a screw loose would want to go against them. Bailey June looked at the scene in front of him and realized in hindsight. After he understood, he gritted his teeth. When he was in seclusion, he had thought about these problems. However, at that time Rongxiu was still young and inexperienced. He did not take him seriously at all. Who knew that in just a few years, everything would change? How could it be so easy to take back the country that he had lost? After a short silence, Bailey June took a deep breath and finally said, Yuan is the legitimate daughter of the Immortal Water Tomb. Can Yuntian Tower really sit by and do nothing when she is in trouble? Besides, she is already here. What's the point of talking about this? Everyone silently exchanged glances, all of them revealing meaningful expressions. He was still protecting her. They did not know what kind of destiny Jiang Jiwon had to be protected by the clan leader. However, if Jiang Jiwon continued to be tormented like this, even Yuntian Tower would not be able to protect her. 36 Ming could not be bothered to continue discussing Jiang Jiwon's matter with him. Since the clan leader insists, then let's forget about this matter for now. We will wait for His Highness the Holy Sun to come back and make a decision. According to Rongxiu's character, he might not be able to tolerate Jiang Jiwon. Bailey June's lips moved, but he swallowed the rebuttal that was at the back of his throat. After a moment he calmed down and stood up. Since the princess consort is so busy, I will go and see her personally. 36 respected elder Ming's eyes flashed with a hint of fierceness. He also stood up and calmly blocked Bailey Chun's path. With a faint smile he said, Don't worry, Patriarch, I'm afraid. This isn't too appropriate, right? You are an elder and she is a junior. No matter what, she should be the one to meet you. If word of this gets out, won't people say that our Yuntian Tower's princess consort doesn't know etiquette? Without a doubt there would be another wave of curses when the time came. Besides, even if he went to the sacrificial god temple now, he wouldn't be able to see it. Bailey June paused and looked at him suspiciously. He didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but he always felt that 36 revered Elder Ming seemed to be stopping him, not wanting him to go to the sacrificial god hall, and even more not wanting him to see the new princess. Could it be that there was something fishy about this? Jiang Jiwon stopped crying. She got up and wiped her tears. Then she walked to Bailey June with red eyes. Grandpa-chan, you have just come out of seclusion today. You must have a lot of things to do. Let's put this matter on hold for now. She paused for a moment. Ever since she became the princess consort, she has been staying in the sacrificial god hall and hasn't come out much. She must be busy with her cultivation and breakthrough, right? No matter how diligent she is in her cultivation, she can't do it like this. She doesn't even have the time to come out and meet someone. Bailey June harumphed coldly. Yuanyuan, this matter has nothing to do with you. You don't have to get involved. This old man wants to see how difficult it is to meet this princess consort. As he spoke, he flung his sleeves and strode forward like a shooting star. 36 revered Elder Ming couldn't stop him anymore. After pondering for a moment, he followed after him. There were quite a few people behind him. Out of various thoughts, they quietly followed after him. After walking out of the ethereal hall, Bailey June looked up. The sacrificial god hall stood at the peak of Upsetting Peak. A powerful barrier shrouded it. From here one could only see the white mist drifting gently. As for the specific scenery, one couldn't see it clearly. Jiang Jiwon stood behind him. Looking at the palace above, she gritted her teeth. In the past she had always been able to enter and exit the sacrificial god hall as she pleased. But now she had fallen into such a situation. Without saying a word, Bailey June flew up. 36 revered Elder Ming's heart felt as if it was being gripped tightly by something. Bailey June was the clan head. Even though he didn't have any actual authority now, he was still the most respected person in the Yuntian Tower in name. He had the authority to enter the sacrificial god hall directly. If he were to discover that the person he was looking for wasn't in the fuselage hall, then wouldn't all the hard work he had put in during this period go to waste? However, if he were to step forward to stop him, it would be too obvious. There was no guarantee that he wouldn't attract attention. 36 revered Elder Ming held his breath as he stared intently above. Bailey June's speed was very fast. In just a few breaths' time he arrived before the sacrificial god hall's independent barrier. Several heavily armored soldiers looked over and bowed respectfully. Greetings to the clan head. Bailey June nodded. He knew that these people were Rong Xiu's most trusted aides. Since he had no intention to argue with them, he went straight to the point. Is the princess here? This old man wants to see her. Isn't this giving enough face? As long as it was someone with a brain and a face, they would be so embarrassed that they would panic. At this moment, a figure hurriedly rushed over from behind. Since the clan head has arrived, I hope that the clan head will forgive us for not being able to welcome you. Umo bowed respectfully with a smile on his face. Bailey June frowned, feeling somewhat dissatisfied in his heart. However, he also knew that these people from the sacrificial god hall would never get involved in matters outside of this place, so it wasn't good for him to get angry. Where's the princess? She can't still be cultivating in seclusion, right? Umo smiled. The clan head is wise. The princess is indeed on the verge of breaking through. I'm afraid it's inconvenient to disturb her. Bailey June had already expected this answer and was about to walk in. Then this old man will wait here. Whenever she's free, she can come out and meet me. The smile on Umo's face froze. This roar, a lion's roar that was filled with killing intent, resounded through the heavens and earth. In the next moment, a vigorous white figure stepped on the air and came over. With a few flashes, it appeared in front of Bailey June. Wuxia. It stood in front of the barrier and looked directly at Bailey Chun. Its icy blue eyes were filled with a cold and indifferent aura of disdain. Roar, it roared towards the sky. Waves of pressure. Bailey June's expression changed. This beast, did it not intend to let him in? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1438. Shui snorted. Wasn't it obvious? Was there a need to ask? Seeing Shui's arrival, Umo heaved a sigh of relief. However, he still had to put on an act. Shui, the clan head is going to enter the sacrificial god hall and wait for the princess consort. Don't cause trouble. Shui licked its claws, revealing its white teeth. Its expression was indifferent, as though it had turned a deaf ear to all of this. Clearly, this time, it was determined to block the entrance. Bailey June felt that this was ridiculous. He was the clan head of the Yuntian Tower, and he could freely enter the sacrificial god hall. But now he was actually blocked by a beast. This was the biggest joke in the world. Thinking quickly, Bailey Chun's eyes turned cold. Anyone could tell whose intention this was. It was obvious that Rong Xiu didn't want him to enter. Furthermore, it was done so openly. There were so many people watching below. Rong Xiu's actions didn't leave him any face at all. Move aside. Bailey June reprimanded with a dark expression. Shui stretched its back and glanced at Bailey June casually. It didn't move. Its intention couldn't be any clearer. Umo rushed forward with a troubled expression. He looked at Shui and then at Bailey June, clan head. You know that Shui has always been stubborn and won't listen to anyone. This little one apologizes to you first. Why don't you come another day? Today is the day that you came out of seclusion, and it should be a celebration. Don't be unhappy because of such a small matter. Umo said sincerely. Even if he didn't consider them, he should consider the group of people who were looking at them in the square below. Did he still want his face? If they fell out, it wouldn't be beneficial to anyone. Bailey June naturally didn't want to make a scene. What was the point of arguing with a beast? However, it was too difficult for him to vent his anger. Clan head, why do you have to be so calculative with Shui? 36 respected Elder Ming heaved a sigh of relief. He slowly walked over and spoke with a smile. Her Highness is in the sacrificial god temple. Do you think she can run away? If you want to meet him, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. You've been in seclusion for a few years. Now that you've finally come out, it's indeed a joyous occasion. Umo was right. No matter what, they had to celebrate. How about we tell you about the situation of the Divine Ruins world and the Yuntian Tower over the past few years, and then let our subordinates prepare. He personally spoke in a sincere tone, which was equivalent to giving Bailey June a way out. Bailey June wavered when he heard the last sentence. In this short period of time, he had indeed discovered that the Yuntian Tower had undergone tremendous changes. He urgently wanted to understand the situation so that he could have a better understanding of the situation. His Highness, the Chosen Saint, has not been around recently, so there are many things that you have to decide on. 36 revered Elder Ming's smile was genuine. Bailey June's heart calmed down and the expression on his face finally improved. Let's deal with these things first. He glanced at the sacrificial god temple. We'll talk about the rest another day. He didn't believe that this Shangguanyu could be so arrogant for so long. Seeing them return, Jiang Jiwan gritted her teeth. They were already at the door. They couldn't even enter. There must be something wrong with that Shangguanyu. At this moment, someone flew over from afar. Miss Jiang, there's a letter from the Immortal Water Tomb. Lingshao College. Pingmin Mountain. Chu Liwei was sitting on the Millennium Frost Jade bed, quietly and seriously flipping through the medical books in her hands. A strange fluctuation suddenly came from outside. Elder Meng. Elder Meng. Chu Liwei recognized this anxious voice. It was Elder Wenxi. Why was he here? Chu Liwei was curious. She was about to get up and take a look, but suddenly remembered that she was locked up here. It didn't seem right to rashly go out now. Thus, she obediently sat back down. Rong Xiu happened to come down from upstairs at this time. Hearing the footsteps, she looked back. The two of them looked at each other. Chu Liwei carefully sized up Rong Xiu and didn't find anything unusual. She was slightly relieved and pointed outside. Elder Wenxi is here. He seems to be looking for Elder Meng for something urgent. Rong Xiu walked to her side and smiled. Don't worry, Elder Meng will take care of it. Chu Liwei nodded. Sure enough, Elder Meng's voice came from upstairs. Wenxi, what's the hurry? Let me in first. I have to talk to you in person. Hearing that the voice was a little off, Elder Meng opened the barrier and let Elder Wenxi in. Elder Wenxi's footsteps were hurried, his expression anxious. Elder Meng. Bad news. He walked into the hall on the first floor and searched around, but suddenly his footsteps stopped. Where's Chuyu? At this time, Elder Meng's figure flashed and appeared in front of Elder Wenxi. He went to rest by himself and is not here at this time. What do you have to say? Say it. Elder Wenxi hammered his palm. Zai. This kid is in big trouble. Hearing this, Chu Liyue's brows moved slightly. Rongxiu looked back and looked down. Why do you suddenly say that? Elder Meng was a little surprised. Recently, that kid has been fine with this old man and hasn't done anything. It's the northern land of chaos. Elder Wenxi's brows were tightly knitted. I don't know who spread the news outside, saying that the matter of the northern land of chaos was done by Chu Yu and the Black Demon sect together. They also said that the real Heavenly Square Sacred Cauldron has long been with Chu Yu. Everything is just a conspiracy between him and the Black Demon sect. This news has spread like wildfire outside, and now all the major clans and families are asking for a thorough investigation of Chu Yu. Digression. Recently, several friends have fallen ill or their family members have fallen ill and I'm very emotional. People are very fragile, everyone must be healthy and happy. Mobile users, please browse and read, a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1439. Chu Liyue's heart suddenly tightened. Rongxiu turned around and shook his head at her, indicating for her to calm down. The voices continued to come from downstairs. What's going on? Elder Meng was also stunned by the news, but his first reaction was disbelief. Chu Yu is Rongxiu's man, how could he have any connection with the Black Demon Cave? Moreover, the Heavenly Square Cauldron is one of the 10 great sacred artifacts, and it has been lost for thousands of years without a trace. Why is it suddenly said that Chu Yu has it? Such a treasure was with that stinky brat. Who would believe it? I don't believe it either. But this news has already spread outside. We can't just ignore it. Elder Wenxi was also very anxious. This time they didn't come in person and they all changed to letters, but the wording was strict and their attitude was clear. Now that Bo Yen is dealing with this matter, he asked me to come over and check on Chu Yu's situation. No matter what, they couldn't avoid it this time. The Black Demon Cave's status in the Divine Ruins world was not low, but their reputation was terrible. This was because their cultivation method was extremely evil and tyrannical. Furthermore, most of the people in their sect were also vicious and vicious. Their methods were cruel. The other families and sects in the Divine Ruins world rarely interacted with them. Many of them had deep enmity with them. It was a pity that the Black Demon Cave's strength was tyrannical, and they were not to be trifled with, so until now the best choice was to stay away from them. Now that Chu Yu's name was connected to the Black Demon Cave, how could they not care? If it weren't for the fact that Elder Bo Yen and Rongxiu had solemnly warned them and had more concerns, they would have directly charged over. Needless to say, the rumor also said that the Heavenly Square Cauldron was already with Chu Yu. If it was an ordinary treasure it would be fine, but this was one of the 10 great sacred artifacts. In the Divine Ruins world, there were a few families that had the 10 great sacred artifacts, and they had more confidence than others. It was not an exaggeration to say that such a treasure was enough to directly promote a second-rate family to a first-rate one. And it was the kind that had a high status and a lot of power. Who wouldn't be tempted? Within the Divine Ruins world, aristocratic families and clans stood in great numbers. Wanting to occupy a place in this intense competition was simply as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But if he had the 10 great sacred artifacts, all of this would be easily solved. Therefore this time, it wasn't just the first-rate aristocratic families who sent letters to question him. Even some second-rate aristocratic families began to secretly make moves. The situation was urgent, otherwise Elder Wenxi would not have rushed in like this. Elder Meng, this matter is of great importance. Chu Yu will not be able to avoid it no matter what. Bo Yen asked me to take a look. How is his body recovering? If you've recovered, we'll go over and discuss how to deal with this matter. Elder Wenxi finally revealed the purpose of this trip. Elder Meng furrowed his brows and looked solemn. Since it involved the Black Demon Cave and the Heavenly Square Cauldron, it was indeed troublesome. But Chu Yu had just failed to break through to the middle stage of the 9th stage a few days ago. Now was the crucial time to recuperate his body. How could he go out like this? Wasn't this taking his body and future as a joke? There are still some things that I need to take care of. Can Bo Yan wait a little longer? Elder Wensi asked. How long will it take? Half a month, no 10 days. Elder Meng said with some uncertainty. In fact, in this situation, if it was an ordinary cultivator, they wouldn't be able to recover without 2 or 3 months. Fortunately, Chu Yu's physique was better, and Rong Xiu had rushed over in time, and had been helping from behind, which allowed Chu Yu to recover so quickly. But no matter how fast it would still take a certain amount of time. Elder Wensi smiled bitterly and awkwardly. 10 days. Do you think that's possible? Those people wanted nothing more than to rush over again and take Chu Yu away. Waiting for Elder Bo Yan's reply was the only concession they were willing to make. How could they be willing to wait for 10 days for nothing? Even if it was 5 days, they would still be very anxious. What can we do? How far do these people want to push Chu Yu? He's only 17 years old. Elder Meng was also furious. Although every time Chu Yu came in he would act very impatient, but in reality he liked this child in his heart. Pengmin Mountain's position was special. For a long time he was the only one who had been silently guarding it. Loneliness, coldness and boredom. Occasionally there would be some students who made mistakes and were locked up, but most of them were scared witless, their faces pale, and did not dare to say a word. When the punishment time was up, those bastards would run away faster than anyone else. But Chu Yu was different. He was talented, smart, and the most important thing was that he was lively and witty, very interesting. He said that he did not want to see him, but in fact he still missed him a little. Now that he heard all these messy things, of course he could not help but speak up for Chu Yu. Chu Yu's failure to break through was already tragic enough, and now he was being splashed with dirty water for no reason. What was this? Elder Wensi laughed bitterly. They won't care about this. Last time Bo Yan and Rong Xiu stepped in and barely protected him, but at that time, although everyone had their suspicions, no one had any evidence, so they compromised. Do you think that this time they will be sent away so easily? Even if one used their toes to think, they would not. With their own interests mixed in, who would be able to watch from the sidelines? Elder Meng's chest seemed to be on fire, as if it was going to rush out in the next moment. Elder Meng. A clear and calm voice came from upstairs. Both Elder Meng and Elder Wensi were shocked and looked up at the same time. Chu Yu. Elder Wensi opened his mouth. Why was he on the second floor? And the one next to him, isn't that Rong Xiu? He's actually here too? Elder Wensi, I'll go with you. Chu Liwei said with a calm expression. No. Elder Meng immediately objected and frowned. Your body, you have to stay here and recuperate for a while. If he went over now, who knew what would happen? If they made trouble again, with Chu Yu's small body, could he withstand it? Chu Liwei smiled, and a trace of gratitude to Elder Meng emerged in her heart. She knew that Elder Meng was thinking for her, but things had already gotten to this point. There was no point in hiding anymore. They had already stepped on top of her head and she still had to endure? No matter what the consideration was, Chu Liwei knew that she had to come forward. She walked down the stairs and Rong Xiu was one step behind her and followed her down. Thank you for your kindness, Elder Meng, but this matter started because of me, so I should face it personally. Chu Liwei curved her lips and smiled. Elder Meng, Elder Wensi and Elder Zhang were a little stunned. The young man in front of them was clean and handsome with a gentle smile, and no trace of nervousness could be seen. This kind of bearing, it really made people look at him in a new light. Elder Meng's heart wavered a little. Are you sure? Those people are not that easy to deal with. Chu Liwei blinked. I have a clear conscience, so why should I be nervous and afraid of them? As she spoke, she looked at Elder Wensi. May I ask, Elder Wensi, do you know who spread this news? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1440. This was the question that Tu Liwei wanted to know the most right now. Whether it was connecting her to the Black Demon Cave or revealing that the Heavenly Square Cauldron was with her. These things were all extremely secretive. All along she had been very careful, afraid of revealing the slightest bit. Because she knew too well that if this news were to spread, it would bring her a lot of trouble. But she did not expect that no matter how careful she was, she would still be tricked. She thought that she had hidden it very well, but she did not know that she had been secretly targeted. Who was the other party? How much did they know? Tu Liwei was not sure. She had too many secrets hidden in her body, and any one of them would cause a huge storm. And with her current strength, it would be very difficult to deal with these problems. Elder Wensi was stunned for a moment and shook his head. We don't know yet. It seems that in one night, those aristocratic families all knew. Bo Yen has already sent people to investigate, but it would be strange if they could find out. The other party obviously came prepared, so how could they make a mistake on such a small matter? Then someone sent the news to all these people at the same time? Chu Liwe thought to herself. It's not impossible, no, it should be like this. Elder Wensi hesitated for a moment and agreed. The letters from these aristocratic families were sent almost at the same time. If they spread the news 1 to 2, 2 to 3, their reaction would not be so orderly and fast. But, who was it? Chu Liwe smiled. The Divine Ruins world is vast, and all the aristocratic families have their own territories. They are all very far from each other, and it is not an easy thing to tell them all this news together. There was a hint of mockery in her black jade-like eyes. In order to deal with her, the other party had put in a lot of effort. Chu Yu, Elder Meng's face was solemn as he listened, and the wrinkles on his face were all wrinkled together. Who did you offend? The other party wanted to spend so much effort to deal with him? Chu Liwe touched her chin, then spread her hands and smiled. I have offended too many people and now I can't think of who it is. Elder Meng and Elder when she looked at each other, speechless. According to Chu Yu's character, it was not impossible for him to do this. But how could this brat still laugh now? Did he know how serious this accusation was? No matter which one was proven to be true, even if he was framed, he would never be able to make a comeback. If any of those aristocratic families were to step on him, Chu Yu would be forever trapped in the 18th level of hell, unable to rise again. Even with the protection of Lingxiao College and Rongxiu, it was still useless. Chu Liwe cupped his fists respectfully at Senior Meng. Thank you for taking care of me during this period of time, Senior Meng. The student is very grateful. Senior Meng knew that she had made up her mind. He looked at her with a complicated expression. Be careful. The corners of Chu Liyue's mouth curled up. He nodded and then looked at Elder Wensi. Elder, let's go. How could Elder Wensi not feel uncomfortable in his heart? However, there was no other way now. He could only take one step at a time. He responded, bid farewell to Senior Meng and then left with Chu Liwe. Rongxiu followed. Elder Wensi glanced at him and did not object. Instead he felt more at ease. It seemed that Rongxiu did not intend to sit back and do nothing. With the support of the Yuntian Tower, their situation would definitely be much better. It would more or less make those people feel a little wary. The few of them left quickly. The door slowly closed, isolating everything outside. There was silence all around. After a long time, Senior Meng sighed softly and turned to go upstairs. Chu Liyue and Rongxiu followed Senior Meng to the Donghuang Bell Tower. This was not the first time Chu Liyue had come. In the few months since she entered the academy, she had come more often than most of the students in the academy. Of course, nothing good happened every time. It was the same this time. In fact, it was even worse than before. The incident with Scarlet Heavensword was considered an internal matter of the academy. Considering that she was a student of the academy, the elders would not be too strict on her responsibility. Moreover, she had saved Rongxiu back then. She had made up for her mistakes with her merits and the matter was over. But this time, with so many aristocratic families pressuring her from the outside, how could it be so easy to solve? Entering the hall, it was solemn. Senior Bo Yen sat at the head of the table, and on the left and right below him sat the elders with important positions in the academy. Senior Wanjing was also among them. They're here. Senior Meng Wensi walked at the front and said as he walked in. Everyone looked over. Chu Liwe immediately felt those gazes pressing down on her as if they were solid. In an instant, it seemed as if the surrounding air had become sticky and cold. Chu Liyue's face was still calm. She walked straight to the middle and bowed to everyone. Student Chu Yu greets the elders. Rongxiu stood beside her less than half an arm's distance. Seeing that he had also followed over, Senior Bo Yen was a little surprised. He had just asked someone to invite Rongxiu over, but why did he come over with Senior Meng Wensi and Chu Yu? As if seeing his doubts, Senior Meng Wensi coughed and explained, when I went to Mount Pringmin, I happened to meet Rongxiu there. Everyone then understood. There was nothing strange about this. Mount Pingmin, others could not go but Rongxiu could. Senior Bo Yen nodded and pointed to a specially reserved empty seat beside Rongxiu. It's good that you're here. Rongxiu, take a seat first. That seat was very close to Senior Bo Yan, and it could be seen how much he valued Rongxiu. Obviously, he did not treat Rongxiu as a student. Today, Rongxiu's identity was the Yuntian Tower's holy son. Rongxiu didn't reject the offer as he agreed and walked over with his long legs to take a seat. Senior Meng Wenxi looked at Chu Luiyue worriedly and also sat down in his seat. The door was already closed. In the spacious and noble hall, it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. A layer of enchantment gently swayed on the wall, completely sealing off this place. All the sounds and movements here would not be transmitted out. Chu Yu, did Wenxi explain the current situation to you clearly? Asked Elder Bo Yan in a low voice as he sat up straight and stared at Chu Luiyue with his deep and weathered eyes. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. I roughly know. Then what do you have to say now? Senior Bo Yan gripped the armrest of the chair tightly with one hand. Are you related to the Black Demon Cave? Did you participate in the matter of the northern region of the primordial wilderness? Also, is the Heavenly Square Cauldron with you? Straight to the point. A short and sharp question. In an instant, the originally quiet hall seemed to become even colder. Countless pairs of eyes fell on Chu Luiyue, waiting for her answer. Chu Luiyue smiled slightly. I have nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave. I am also a victim of the matter of the northern region of the primordial wilderness. As for the Heavenly Square Cauldron, do you think that if I had one of the 10 great sacred artifacts with me, I would still be able to live safely until today? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1441. The young man's voice was clear and bright, his expression sincere. His pair of dark eyes were like black jade that had sunk into the river, covered with a layer of faint luster. When people looked at him, they could not help but be convinced by him. Everyone was stunned, then their minds were shaken. That's right. If Chu Yu really had a treasure on him and everyone knew about it, how could he be so peaceful for such a long time? Anyone with a brain would take advantage of the fact that not many people knew about it to steal it, right? After all, Chu Yu was only a 9th-level martial artist. If the other party really wanted to steal the treasure, there were many opportunities. Chu Yu was not their opponent. But now the news had spread everywhere. Everyone was restless and wanted to take a share of the loot. The person who spread the news behind the scenes was obviously targeting Chu Yu. How could Chu Yu be more attractive than the Heavenly Square Cauldron? Wasn't it obvious that they were targeting Chu Yu? Elder Bo Yan secretly heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Chu Yu's situation was not like the rumors, things would be much easier. Otherwise, he really did not know how to clean up this mess. Now that the rumors are everywhere and many aristocratic families and clans believe it, the situation is very unfavorable for you. Elder Bo Yan released his hand, his index finger tapping on the armrest. You have to think of a way to prove your innocence. This did not make sense. It was obvious that someone was deliberately splashing dirty water, but wanted Chu Yu to prove his innocence. Everyone knew that these things were not easy to do, but there was no other way. These aristocratic families and clans had more or less lost some people in the northern wilderness. But they could not find the person behind the scenes, so they could not help but feel angry. Now that the rumors were everywhere, they naturally chose to unite and use Chu Luiyue as a punching bag. Therefore all the conflicts were directed at Chu Luiyue. And Chu Luiyue could only accept it. I know. Chu Luiyue smiled. Previously, because of me, I caused a lot of trouble for the academy. I have not formally thanked and apologized to you and the elders. Who would have thought that something like this would happen again so soon? This student really feels apologetic. She said it very sincerely. Some of the elders who had planned to say it was sooner or later could only shut their mouths. In the end, Chu Yu seemed to be quite innocent. Didn't he just follow them to the northern wilderness? Because his luck was good and he obtained some opportunities, he was targeted. What was wrong with that? Not to mention he had helped Elder Hua Feng and the others a lot. On the academy's side, most of the people didn't have any opinions about him. This child's luck. Elder Bo Yan waved his hand. That matter, there's no need to mention it. You are a student of our Spirit Heaven Academy. At any time no one is allowed to slander or bully you. Not to mention anything else, even if it was for the sake of the academy's reputation, they would not back down so easily. Chu Luiyue's heart warmed and her lips curled up as she sincerely said, Thank you, Elder Bo Yan. But there's one thing. Elder Bo Yan's brows were still furrowed. As a condition of compromise, they requested that you give everyone a clear explanation after you come out of Mount Pingmin. About the northern wilderness? Now, I'm afraid the Black Demon Cave and the Heavenly Square Sacred Cauldron have to be added. Elder Bo Yen had a headache. The matter was getting out of hand. The trouble at the front had not been resolved and so many things had happened at the back. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. Student understands. Since the matter was caused by her, she naturally had to come forward to solve it. Then I'll have to trouble Elder Bo Yen to do me a favor. Speak. Since they want an explanation, I'll give them one. Chu Luiyue's lips curved slightly but her eyes were clear. I'll have to trouble you to send out an invitation and invite them over. This student will confront them face to face and explain everything clearly. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was shocked. Chu Yu? Elder Wanjing was the first to lose control. You can't be rash. What was this? They had finally gotten rid of those people with great difficulty, and in the blink of an eye, this kid actually took the initiative to invite them over again? Did he think that it was not chaotic enough? If things were to get out of hand, Chu Yu's situation would be extremely dangerous. Chu Luiyue shrugged and looked at him helplessly with a smile. Master, this is the best choice now, isn't it? Lingxiao College could help her once, but it could not help her every time. As long as this matter was not resolved, it would be a hidden danger. Besides, she also wanted to see who was secretly targeting her. She had to find out where the news of the Black Demon Cave and the Heavenly Square Cauldron came from. Seeing Chu Luiyue's firm and fearless attitude, Elder Wanjing was speechless for a moment. How could he not know the stakes in this? However, after so many years, he only had this one precious disciple and naturally he could not bear to part with her. After a long while, Elder Wanjing shook his head. Forget it, since you've already thought it through, then just do it. He would protect her until the end. No matter what, no one could harm a single hair on his disciple. Chu Luiyue smiled gratefully and looked at Elder Bo Yen. Elder Bo Yen suddenly looked at Rongxiu. Rongxiu, you see, it was all thanks to Rongxiu that they were able to stop those people the last time. Now that he had made a decision, he wanted to ask for Rongxiu's opinion again. Rongxiu leaned against the back of the chair, his posture lazy and noble. He smiled slightly. Whatever she wants to do, let her be. The most I will take care of it. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1442. Arrogant. Arrogant. But it was so domineering that it made others speechless. Elder Bo Yen had already understood how important Chu Yu was to Rongxiu during the confrontation with the crowd, so he wasn't surprised when he heard this. However, many of the others present were still shocked to the point of dizziness. He's holding. The other party wasn't just one or two families, but an entire group. Rongxiu was actually willing to take such a huge risk for Chu Yu. The relationship between the two of them was indeed extraordinary. Because the two of them had never officially explained it, everyone could only make wild guesses. They didn't believe it at first, but now it seemed that they were brothers. While everyone was secretly amazed, they also finally understood the various situations that had occurred before. But wonder. Ever since Chu Yu came, Rongxiu had been taking care of him. Now he didn't even bother to hide it. However, this was ultimately a matter between Rongxiu and Chu Yu, so others couldn't say anything. Moreover, with Rongxiu's help, the pressure on the academy would be reduced by a lot. Elder Bo Yen glanced around. Since that's the case, then it's settled. Huafeng, immediately send out the invitations and ask them to meet in 3 days. Speaking of this, Elder Bo Yen paused and hesitated. It wasn't a problem to invite them, and 3 days was definitely enough. After all, that group of people couldn't wait to appear here directly. But the key was, where should they meet? If they were to fight outside, then Lingxiao Academy would be outnumbered and would inevitably suffer. But if it was at the academy, if this matter spread, it would greatly affect Chu Yu's reputation. How would the people in the academy view him? At that time, if there were any accidents, Chu Yu would be criticized and ostracized. Chu Luiyue looked up and swept her gaze across Elder Bo Yan's conflicted face. Of course, she knew what Elder Bo Yan was worried about. Elder, let's set it in Fangzhou City. Chu Luiyue said with a chuckle. That place was close to the academy, and it wouldn't be considered as breaking into the academy. It could attack and defend and was the most suitable place for the academy. Are you sure? Elder Bo Yan was still hesitant. Chu Luiyue nodded. Thank you and the elders for your hard work. This time I will surely solve all these problems. The elders dispersed and began to prepare for the meeting 3 days later. The matter this time might be a tough battle, so no matter what, they had to do everything well and not make the slightest mistake. In the end, only a few people were left in the room. Chu Luiwei bowed to Elder Bo Yen again. Elder, this student is truly grateful for your help. He was willing to risk the entire academy for her sake. She knew it would not be an easy task. Elder Bo Yen smiled. Don't worry, you're innocent. When the time comes, we'll explain everything. It's not good to drag these troubles on. I'll take this opportunity to solve them all at once. He had had enough of those people's harassment. This time he had to give them a few tight slaps. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant in the future. Chu Liuyue's eyes flickered. You're right. Actually, you have to thank Rongxiu for this matter. If it wasn't for him, the other elders wouldn't have been so easy to deal with. Of course, when the time comes, your situation will be much better than expected. As long as there's no evidence, those people won't dare to do anything to you. Elder Bo Yen smiled. Also, not all of those aristocratic families are looking for trouble with you. Some of them are on our side, such as the Meteor sect. Chu Liwei came to a realization and the corners of her lips curled up. Shiru must have mediated in this matter. She had saved Shiru's life, but she had never thought of asking her to repay the favor. She did not expect Shiru to be so concerned about this matter. Under such circumstances, it must have taken her a lot of effort to persuade the Meteor sect to stand on her side. This was not an easy task at all. So you don't have to be too worried. When the time comes, just say what you want to say. Elder Bo Yen felt a little more confident now. Let's see who dares to wrongly accuse you. Chu Luiyue nodded with a smile. That's right. Could it be that those people would dissect her on the spot and examine her bit by bit? She wanted to see how lively this scene would be. Lingxiao College's invitation was sent out very quickly. The aristocratic families who were ready to make a move were stunned when they received the news. Then they became excited. Lingxiao College would actually do such a thing. To be so daring, how confident were they? However, these were not important. What was important was that this time, everyone's focus was on Chu Yu. He would face everyone head-on. Black Demon Cave, Northern Wilderness, and Heavenly Square Cauldron. All the mysteries would be solved one by one. For a time, the entire Divine Ruins world was in a state of turmoil. What? Lingxiao College invited all of them to gather in Fangzhou City? Ethereal Hall. Bailey Jun looked at the news in his hand and could not believe his eyes. What is Lingxiao College trying to do? For many years, the aristocratic families did not have close ties with each other, and they had always maintained a delicate balance. Yet, Lingxiao College actually wanted to break this balance. Even if they had a strong foundation, this was too daring. Elder Yu Jingzuan stood respectfully below. Patriarch, you don't know, but recently rumors about Chu Yu have been spreading all over the Divine Ruins. The Spirit Heaven Academy was forced to do this because they had no other choice, right? Bailey Jun frowned. Chu Yu? Who's that? Jiang Jiwan, who was pouring tea by the side, glanced at Yu Jingzuan with jealousy. The academy removed her from the list, but in the blink of an eye, they went to such an extent for Chu Yu. Even if they treated him differently, they shouldn't go overboard. She suppressed the jealousy and resentment in her heart and said softly, Chu Yu is a new student who joined the academy a few months ago. He's quite talented and his relationship with Rongxiu seems to be quite good. These words immediately attracted Bailey Jun's attention. What do you mean by, not bad? Wasn't Rongxiu a loner in the academy? Jiang Jiwan bit her lips. Rongxiu is personally guiding him in his cultivation and they both live in Jiuheng Mountain. He's really taking good care of him. Last time when Chu Yu made a mistake, it was Rongxiu who interceded for him. Pop. Bailey Jun slammed his cup down heavily. A dull thud sounded. Digression. I have some matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving very late. Perhaps it's after dark. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 1443. Jiang Jiwan shuddered and her lips turned pale. She quickly put down the teapot. Grandpa Chun, I shouldn't have said so much. Yuanyan, this has nothing to do with you. Bailey Jun looked at her and felt sorry for her. He immediately softened his tone. However, in his eyes, there was still anger that had not been extinguished. I just think that Rongxiu has gone too far. Back then when you followed him to the academy he didn't take care of you at all. Later he just left you alone in Lingxiao College. Didn't he think about how much trouble a young girl like you would encounter in such a strange place? I thought that he was cold and indifferent so I didn't care. But now what is this? He's helping someone else train a disciple. He personally trained her and even lived together in Zhuheng Mountain. Even Jiang Jiwan didn't receive such treatment. What right did Chuyu, who came out of nowhere, have? Even if he doesn't like you he shouldn't treat you so differently. This makes you. How could Jiang Jiwan put her face in front of others? Jiang Jiwan lowered her head and said in a low voice. Brother Rongxiu has his own considerations. Please don't blame him. Bailey June looked at her and felt even worse. Jiang Jiwan grew up by his side. When had she ever suffered so much? Now that she had been expelled from Lingxiao College, Chuyu could persuade the entire academy to support him. How could she feel good? Yuanyan, don't worry. Grandpa will definitely stand up for you this time. Bailey June said and stood up. Jiang Jiwan was shocked and looked up at him in surprise. 2 drops of tears were still hanging in the corners of her eyes. Grandpa-chan, what are you doing? Bailey June snorted coldly. Going to Lingxiao College. Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat. Even elder Yu Jingzuan, who was standing below, was somewhat dazed. He almost thought that he had misheard. Patriarch, are you serious? Bailey Chun walked out of the room and glared at him coldly. Do I look like I'm joking with you? Elder Yu Jingzuan broke out in a cold sweat. How could that be? This is not appropriate. But clan leader Lingxiao College didn't send an invitation to our Yuntian Tower. It's not easy to go. Bailey June didn't care at all and sneered. What's wrong? I've been in seclusion for a few years. Now, I'm not even qualified to go to Lingxiao College? No, that's not what I meant. Elder Yu Jingzuan's blood froze. He hurriedly explained in a panic. It's just that this matter involves a lot of things. Many first-class families will definitely go to Fangzhou City. When they gather, no one can say for sure what will happen. You've just come out of seclusion and there are many things in Yuntian Tower that you need to deal with personally. Even if he used his toes to think, he would know that that place was about to become a battlefield. Why would he go there at this time? However, Bailey June didn't take his objection to heart. He waved his hand. For the past few years I've been in seclusion and didn't get involved in the affairs of Yuntian Tower. I don't see anything happening. Now that I've been away for a few days, what can I do? You don't have to follow me, I'll go there alone. Although Bailey June hadn't been in seclusion for long, he had accumulated too much dissatisfaction and resentment towards Rongxiu in his heart. Power, status, dignity. Everything that once belonged to him had now been taken away by Rongxiu. Not only did he want to avenge Jiang Jiwan, but he also wanted to make a show of force. He had to make Rongxiu understand that he, Bailey June, was not dead yet. Seeing that he seemed to have made up his mind, Elder Yu was speechless for a moment and didn't know what to do. Grandpa, I'll go with you. Jiang Jiwan finally reacted and hurriedly followed him. Bailey June looked at her disapprovingly. That place is very messy, what are you going to do there? You haven't fully recovered from your injuries yet, so during this time, just stay in Yuntian Tower. On one hand, he was worried about Jiang Jiwan's health and didn't want her to go back and forth. On the other hand, Jiang Jiwan had been expelled from Lingxiao College. Although he could ignore this matter, it didn't mean that others could. It was easy to imagine what would happen if Jiang Ziyuan were to appear there again. It was inevitable that she would be mocked and ridiculed. Jiang Jiwan keenly caught the look on Bailey June's face. She had been by his side for many years and could read his mind the best. Therefore, at this moment she directly guessed Bailey June's many concerns. This immediately made her feel uncomfortable all over. Expelled. She was no longer a student of Lingxiao College. Furthermore, he had been chased out in such a disgraceful manner. It wasn't easy for her to escape from the Liang family's pursuit and those people's mocking eyes. It was indeed not a wise choice to go back now. However, she really didn't want to miss out on this good show. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Jiwan's eyes lit up. Grandpa-chan, how about I change my identity and go with you? Bailey June was stunned. Respected elder Yu Jing frowned. I'm afraid that's not appropriate. If they were found out, it was fine if Jiang Jiwan was embarrassed, but if the entire Yuntian Tower was implicated, how would it end? Although Elder Yu had deep ties with the Tomb of Immortal Water, he wasn't completely brainless. No matter what, the Yuntian Tower was their foundation. If the Yuntian Tower's reputation was ruined, or even worse as an elder, he would bear the brunt of it. However, at this moment Bailey June spoke. It's not impossible, but you have to promise that you won't reveal your identity when the time comes. Jiang Jiwon immediately agreed happily. Yes. Clan leader, this Elder Yu wanted to persuade him again, but Bailey June glared at him. Then the two of you must be careful. Bailey June brushed his sleeves. His expression was calm, but there was a hint of arrogance in it. Of course. With his current strength, wouldn't it be easy for him to protect Jiang Jiwon? Jiang Jiwon stepped forward and hugged his arm coquettishly. I knew that Grandpa Chun loves me the most. Bailey June smiled and tapped her forehead. Hurry up and get changed. Hey, I'll be done soon. Lingxiao College. The elders were busy. The news that heroes from all over the world were about to gather in Fong State City to confront Chu Yu quietly spread among the students. Due to the importance of this matter, the elders thought about it again and decided to announce it. After all, even if they didn't announce it now, the students would still know when they arrived outside Fong State City in a few days. The atmosphere of the entire college became tense and cold. It was rare to see people loitering outside. As the time approached, everyone seemed to be nervous. However, at the center of the storm at this moment, was calmly cultivating in the tower of Pingmin Mountain. Digression. I'm finally home. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1444. After discussing the meeting with Elder Bo Yen and the others, Chu Liyue returned to Mount Pingmin and entered the tower again. This time Chu Liyue's reason was simple. To nourish her body. The Millennium Frost Jade bed on the second floor was extremely effective for nourishing the body. Seeing her return, Elder Meng naturally thought that she was here for this. He agreed without hesitation. Elder Bo Yen and the others were hesitant at first, but seeing that Elder Meng's attitude towards her seemed to be good, they were relieved. They could more or less see that Chu Liyue did not go to Mount Pingmin to suffer. With Elder Meng taking care of her, nothing else was worth mentioning. Rongxiu did not follow her back. Instead, he returned to Mount Jiuheng and was busy with something. It was quiet and empty all around. Chu Liyue sat cross-legged on the Millennium Frost Jade bed. Her eyes were closed as she cultivated quietly. She could even hear her own heartbeat clearly. The surrounding force of heaven and earth constantly flowed into her body, circling in the water droplets and spreading to her limbs and bones. This force nourished her muscles, bones, flesh, and blood little by little. The damage caused by the failure of the breakthrough was also gradually recovering. Her body was tough to begin with, and her recovery ability was astonishing. If it were anyone else, it would take at least 2 to 3 months to fully recover from the injuries caused by this situation. But for her, she was almost fully recovered in just a few days. Of course, Rongxiu's help was indispensable. As Chu Liyue cultivated, she silently sorted out the recent events in her heart. She had no dealings with the Black Demon Cave. The only thing she had a connection with was that strange soul. It was the one that had been deposited in Shangguan Wan's body back then. That person was indeed from the Black Demon Cave, but the last time they confronted each other outside Fong Province City, he had admitted that he had left the Black Demon Cave. Now he had nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave. Where did this brilliance come from? What Chu Liyue cared most about was the Heavenly Square Cauldron. Back then she had obtained the Heavenly Square Cauldron in the Empire of Yaochen. Very few people knew about this. She knew that this thing was not simple, so she had always been very careful and did not dare to take it out easily. Even the last time in the northern wilderness she did not use the real Heavenly Square Cauldron. Who was the one who spread the news? Chu Liyue could not figure it out. Since she could not figure it out, after struggling for a while, Chu Liyue decided to give up. In any case, in a few days in Fangzhou City, everything would be revealed. The most important thing now was to increase his strength as soon as possible. Beginner stage. Against those people it would be an easy death. In the world of God. With every increase in strength one's Meng otherwise, it was it. However, there were less than 3 days left. If he wanted to break through now, it was too difficult. Even. Chu Liyue held her breath and focused her mind. In the next moment she began to gather the force in her body again, and all of it surged toward her dantian. I'm afraid this girl has really forgotten about me. On the top floor, Elder Meng leaned lazily on the back of the chair. He held his head with one hand and flicked his horsetail whisk with the other. In front of him, there was still the same door that was silently suspended in the air. Ever since he sensed that the thing inside was restless and wanted to rush out, Elder Meng began to suspect that the girl was coming back. But after waiting for a long time there was no news at all. His heart began to beat like a drum. Could it be that he was wrong? And for some reason this thing had not moved for the past 2 days. Elder Meng sighed faintly. Back then he did not intend to help. But he could not resist the girl's coaxing and pestering, so he took this hot potato. For this thing he had spent a lot of effort in the past few years. Elder Meng was immersed in the memories of the past. Suddenly his expression froze and he quickly stood up. He walked to the stairs and looked down. The stairs were intertwined. Standing here one could not see the situation below clearly. But the entire tower was under Elder Meng's control, so he could accurately know what was happening below. That kid is trying to break through again. Elder Meng muttered in disbelief. Crazy. This is crazy. How many days has it been since the breakthrough failed? That kid's body hasn't fully recovered yet, right? And now he's doing it again. Elder Meng's figure flashed and he went straight to the second floor. The lower he went, the more he could feel the changes in the heaven and earth force around him. The power in the space seemed to be guided by something, and all of it converged toward a certain spot on the second floor. Elder Meng did not need to look carefully to know that it was where Chuyu was now. And the heaven and earth force was clearly going toward that kid. Elder Meng stopped at the corner of the stairs on the 3rd floor. From here he could see Chuyu cultivating on the 2nd floor. The young man sat quietly, his shoulders drooping naturally. His hands were on his knees, palms facing the sky. He closed his eyes and the faint glow shone on his porcelain-like face, making him look like he was in a dream or a fantasy. Elder Meng's hand gripped the railing tightly. His brows were deeply furrowed and his heart was filled with mixed feelings. Now Chi was clearly in the middle of a breakthrough. It would not be good to interrupt him now. He could only wait. Feeling the surging force around him, Elder Meng gritted his teeth. This kid, he's too bold. In all these years he had never seen anyone succeed in making 2 breakthroughs in such a short period of time. He's courting death. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network.